Startled at the racetracks, to lose? Huang Beiyu squinted her eyes. No matter whether it was a competition or an arena, her mind had never flashed over the world lose. I don't want to participate. I will talk to Professor Guar about it. Huang Beiyu stated faintly. She had been really busy recently, so when will she even have the time to participate in some skills competition? Plus, by competing with the people in East Courtyard will mean that she's lacking in standards. She won't waste her time on things like this. The most important thing for her right now is to help Zhang Yi find an antidote. Luo was stunned. Right after, his eyebrows, which were raised high, had collapsed. Even you don't dare to join. Originally, when people had heard they will be competing against the people of the East Courtyards with real weapons and knives, many students had cowered. These students of nobility who were pampered since childhood had no gift and had a random feeling of cowardliness when facing those with talent. Ever since Huang Beiyu had defeated Xue Ming on the arena that day on, the truth that a normal person had defeated a martial arts master had shocked them. Now in their hearts, Huang Beiyu was a symbol. It seemed as though as long as she stood up, then she would be able to defeat the talented people of the East Courtyard, masters that had led them to be envious of. However, Huang Beiyu had not considered their feelings at all. No matter how much hope the glances made towards her had, she chose to ignore them still. Due to the skills competition, the few professors in the Imperial College were discussing about it. They probably wouldn't be coming over anytime soon. Huang Beiyu didn't want to be annoyed by the people of the Imperial College, so she went outside to get some air. The Imperial College's design was the graceful and classical landscape style of building. In order to train the students' sentiments, they had especially designed each scenic spot to be elegant and of interest. Some of the places were remote and hidden away. The gardens were deep, and if someone were to slightly not pay attention, they would probably get lost while walking in. Huang Beiyu stood in a patch of bushes and leaves for a while. She looked at the 7th tower in the far distance. Right now, the weather was bright and clear. Under the white clouds, the 7th tower seemed majestic. What she stepped under might be the sea of fire she had passed by that day. It was hard to imagine that above the vast sea of fire was actually a glorious and full of vitality city like the Lin Huai city. Ever since she had got back from underground, Zhang Yi most likely had a clear view of Lin Huai city's position and understanding. In his heart, he was probably bothered by this. Lin Huai city is incapable of being Nan Yigua's capital city forever. Looking in the long terms, they must move. Zhang Yi was that wise and calm. He must have seen through these things clearly already. There was no need for her to explain this. When she looked towards the 7th tower, her eyes were cold as though frost. It was like her whole temperament, clear and chilly, letting people not dare to come close. Within the deepness of the forest, there was suddenly a familiar sound that rang. Huang Beiyu faintly turned her eyes around to see a man with impressive appearance with a body of multicolor embroidered clothes, head wearing a crown and carrying a sword, whom had walked out. Huang Beiyu had quickly swept her eyes over him and wanted to leave. Who knew that person had opened his mouth instead? Are you a student of the Lingyang College? As soon as he opened his mouth, his words gave people the feeling as though he was looking down from that of a higher position. If this person was really born to be high up and used to giving orders with the imposing manner of controlling everything, then she might give him some faces. After all, when facing masters of a higher grade, she needed to give the respective respect to them. However, this person only looked to be impressive and have only a trace of royalty imposing manner. What made it a pity was that he was just a normal person of royalty. Startled at the racetracks, Huang Beiyu turned around, only caring about herself. She walked in large strides. Who cared about him? That person was shocked. It was obviously that growing to this age, he had never been ignored before. At that moment, his face flashed over a thin layer of anger. Then he moved his body, blocking the way in front of Huang Beiyu. Which prefecture's maid are you? How dare you not know the rules? Maid? Huang Beiyu looked at her body of simple colored clothes. Indeed, the Imperial College couldn't be compared to the East Courtyard. The noble girls over there, each one of them had fine etiquette and were honorable young misses who cared about their looks and manner. Each of them, when heading out the doors, would take a good couple of hours dressing up themselves. They naturally wouldn't wear simple clothes like her. It was no big deal that she was mistaken for a maid either. However, she didn't like this person's tone when saying so. She coldly stared at him. What does Jingwang believe to be the rules? He was surprised and softly coughed as though having the guilt like being caught by someone, doing something bad. Plus, this feeling of guilt was caused by a young girl. How do you know I am Jingwang? His eyes had flashed over a trace of admiration. There was a huge Jing letter carved on his sword, and he is actually asking her how she knew he was Jingwang? Jingwang is extraordinary, and the descendant of the imperial family is naturally different from other people. Huang Beiyu indifferently exclaimed this. Her words were definitely not of praise, but if Jingwang were to hear this as a compliment, it was fine also. Jingwang's eyebrows were raised high, as though satisfied with her words. He looked at this girl, one of a young age but smart. It was rare that she was also attractive, with bright eyes and white teeth, leading people to be attracted by her. What is your name? Jingwang's tone unconsciously became more gentle. As it turns out, Jingwang is over here. Huang Beiyu didn't wanted to answer his question in the first place, and at the right moment, a crisp voice had barged in, saving her from answering. A couple of young ladies wearing gorgeous clothes had walked over, smiling and giggling. Of them, there was two who were quite familiar. Third sister, you are here also? Xiaorou, who was following them, had called out. The group of young ladies who were talking and laughing had stopped. They all turned over in her direction. The person who walked with Xiaorou was the fifth young miss of the prefecture of the government minister, Lin Wanjun. As soon as she saw Huang Beiyu, her heart felt sour and didn't feel well. Big sister, that girl, is Princess Beiyu of the prefecture of Princess Yang's. Lin Wanjun moved near to the future Wang Fei, the first young miss of the prefecture of the government minister, Lin Wan-yi, whispering, "Look at her and Jingwang. They are actually enjoying themselves." That Lin Wanyi was surrounded in the middle by the group of beautiful young ladies wearing bright clothes. She was proud and beautiful, as though a peacock who had opened its wings. Peacocks cannot be compared to phoenixes. Lin Wanyi had a pair of blessed eyes, the face as round as a goose egg. Her forehead was full and bright, the lips ample and red. It is precisely what the physiognomy had said about the rich and honorable appearance. She was already 17 years old. From young, she was trained by government minister Lin to become the empress who would look after the world. Based on imposing manner, she was different from the young misses of noble families. Her eyes contained power and looked towards Huang Beiyu, carrying a glimpse of disdain and look of examination. As it turns out, it is Princess Beiyu. I have been looking forward to meet you for a long time. The words she spat out were distinct, and the voice was pleasant too. She had proved herself to be the empress trained from young Ah. If that Princess Hong Ling were to stand by her side, that imposing manner will definitely be beaten. Huang Beiyu had just slightly glanced towards her, then looked at Xiaorou. Fourth sister, which sister is this? How come you didn't even introduce me yet? If I were to be lacking in manner, wouldn't it seem like our prefecture doesn't know its etiquette? Startled at the racetracks, Xiaorou was stunned. Right after, her face turned red. These few sentences said by Huang Beiyu meant that she didn't know this future Wang Fei and also involved her in, making it seem like it was her fault. Speaking of lacking in manner, the way Lin Wan-yi had spoke was displaying a lack of manner. She was not the official Jing Wang Fei right now, so she should be paying her respects to Princess Beiyu when she sees her. Normal people didn't care about these etiquette and manners. However, Lin Wan-yi was about to marry into the imperial family. Within the imperial household, there is a distinct display of rank and status, not giving people the chance of exceeding through the rules. Right now, when she opened her mouth, the tone of her voice was clashing against others. Subtly, it contained the intentions of mockery, already the greatest lack in manner. Once the words were out of her mouth, Jing Wang's eyebrows had furrowed, subtly. Lin Wanyi was smart since young, and had been observing Jing Wang. She had noticed his action of furrowing his eyebrows, and her heart had slightly felt heavy. Xiaorou hurriedly explained, "Third sister, this is the prefecture of the government minister's first young miss, the future Jing Wang Fei." Then, Huang Beiyu had replied, "As it turns out to be Jing Wang Fei, Beiyu is lacking in her manners, How could that be? Princess is generous within her heart. It is Wan Yi who is lacking in her manners. As she said so, Lin Wanyi bent down and illustrated a standard courtesy. In her heart, however, she was not satisfied. Jing Wang is here. Wang Fei is giving me a courtesy instead. Beiyu does not deserve this. Huang Beiyu had said Wang Fei this, Wang Fei that, calling her out in such a smooth way. Yet Jing Wang had indifferently exclaimed, Princess is born from the imperial family, so you should know that before she is given the title, do not address her as Wang Fei. Jing Wang's words were out of anyone's expectations. Even Huang Beiyu was slightly surprised. She couldn't help but to look back at Jing Wang, and her heart seemed to understood. Political marriage had existed since the ancient times. For power and position, sometimes it is necessary to sacrifice some things, such as love. Born within the imperial household, who the future person will be by the pillows, they, themselves, are not able to make the decisions. Lin Wanyi's face was slightly ugly. However, her etiquette was pretty good still. Her face still held an elegant smile on. Princess Beiyu is still young, doesn't know much. This is called child's words hold no harm. Prince, don't be mad. Child's words hold no harm. Huang Beiyu couldn't help but be gloomy. Jing Wang's face was slightly better. Actually, his heart was unhappy, but not due to Huang Beiyu's way of addressing him, but it was due to that ever since people found out he was engaged to Lin Wanyi, these people have been calling her Jing Wang Fei this, Jing Wang Fei that. He had not wished for this marriage. Because of this led him to dislike it even more. However, she was composed and virtuous, and normally, he couldn't pick out anything bad about her anyway. Right now, he was only using the pretext to make a fuss out of this. Jing Wang nodded his head a bit. It's been many years, Princess Beiyu. Who knew Princess Beiyu had grown up this much now? Before I was not able to recognize Princess. It is this Wang who has a clumsy eye. Jing Wang is joking. Beiyu's body doesn't have any mark hanging, unlike on Jing Wang's body. Of course it is normal that Jing Wang isn't able to recognize me. Huang Beiyu stated, and her eyes looked towards Jing Wang's personal sword. Jing Wang was shocked. Then right after, he looked down to see that Jing word on his sword. Immediately, he reacted and laughed out loud, straightforwardly. Princess is wiser than most people. This Wang admires you for that. Lin Wanyi watched as Jing Wang, who displayed more etiquette towards her than emotions towards her, was now chuckling out in laughter, and her heart felt slightly sour. She forced a smile on. Prince, before Principal Tsong he was asking about you. Are you going over to take a look? Principal Tsong he? Jing Wang's smile halted. His face suddenly turned serious and said goodbye to Huang Beiyu. He quickly left. What is the matter with Jing Wang? How come he didn't even say something to sister before leaving? Lin Wanyi murmured, out of satisfactions. A shout out to Jennifer B. for sponsoring. It's been a while since we got back on translating, but this is very much appreciated. Love cupcakes and cookies. Startled at the racetracks, 5. These words were heard by Lin Wanyi and turned into another type of feeling. It was sour and bitter, with complex feelings. She couldn't explain the complicated emotions. Jing Wang had already left, and the surroundings were all people whom she had good relationship with. She didn't need to pretend anymore. She slowly walked in front of Huang Beiyu. Her eyes included a look of contempt. I have heard that Princess was weak since birth and unable to learn martial arts. It's no wonder why you can only go into the Imperial College to learn. Big sister, you don't know. Princess Beiyu had defeated the prefecture of Onggwagong's young Miss Xueming on the arena a couple days ago. Now everyone in the Lingyang College are addressing her as brave hero. Lin Wanjun walked up, exclaiming in not a warm or cold tone. On the surface, she seemed to be complimenting her, but on the deeper side, she was actually mocking and instigating the two. This event, in which Huang Beiyu had defeated Xueming on the arena, was spread across the entire Lin Hui city rapidly. Only a couple of people didn't know. A while ago, Lin Wanyi had came along with Jing Wang to patrol out for a whole month, and the happenings in the capital city they had heard also. She thought back to the time when Jing Wang had complimented, brave people have nothing to fear, and she felt even more uncomfortable within her heart. Oh, as it turns out, I have made an error in my judgment. Who knew Princess Beiyu was that powerful? Then am I right to assume that this time, Princess Bei, you will be representing the Imperial College and participating in Lingyang College's skills competition? Lin Wan-yi glanced at Huang Bei-yu's skinny body. She didn't believe that the rumored useless Huang Bei-yu was able to defeat Xue Ming. That time, she probably was just lucky enough. Xue Ming, that person, was arrogant and have great skills but not a smart mind. This Huang Bei-yu was different. Just 2 sentences from her, and she could tell she was pretty wise. Xiao Ming, more than likely, had fell head first into a stratagem employed by Huang Bei-yu. Lin Wanyi wasn't Xue Ming, that kind of stupid person. Third sister will be joining in the skills competition? Xiao Rou exclaimed, surprised. No one understood Huang Bei-yu's strength, but she, who lives under the same roof as her, would not understand? This sick person was still stick to the point she had medicine every day. If she were to join in the skills competition, then she probably wouldn't be as lucky as she was last time on the arena. Even though out of her own heart, she wanted Huang Bei-yu to join the skills competition so she could lose her face, but now that she thought about it, there was no benefits even if Huang Bei-yu lost her face. Huang Bei-yu hugged her hands, listening casually. Even though her personality was cold and of indifference, people had bullied her to the point it was up to the house door. If she continued to hold it in, then it will seem like she is dumb. The black eyes were as though a clear, distinct star, bright. She slightly raised her chin, revealing a noble and elegant feeling. Of course, I will be joining in the skills competition. When the time comes, I will be asking the future Jing Wangfei for advice. Once she finished her words, all the royal young misses who were talking non-stop all became quiet. Everyone looked at her as though looking at a crazy person. Lin Wanjun tried to hold in her laugh and with a look of disdain. What you're trying to say is, you want to challenge my big sister? Can I not? Huang Bei-yu's clear eyes stared forward at Lin Wanyi, who was also shocked. I heard that each year during the skills competition, the students of the lower grade are allowed to challenge the students of a higher grade, and if they win, they will automatically skip over the grade, right? Third sister. Xiao Rou strolled over and whispered, Are you crazy? Do you know that Lin Wanyi was a person who is also a silver warrior like the elder brother Ah? Silver? Huang Bei-yu slightly furrowed her eyebrows. Of course. Lin Wanjun responded, proudly, scared. Right? You dare to challenge a silver warrior? Startled at the racetracks, 6, Huang Bei-yu touched her chin and seriously thought about it, then replied. As it turns out, she's only a silver warrior Ah. I thought she would at least be up to the gold rank. Her words, when heard by others, was as though talking in her sleep. So actually it's not that she didn't know what type of rank Lin Wanyi was at, but that she knew but still wanted to challenge a silver warrior. Crazy. It seemed that since Huang Bei-yu had defeated Xue Ming on the arena last time, she thought that all masters were like that. Lin Wanyi looked at her as though looking at a joke. Before she thought that she was quite smart, but now how come she acted as though a stupid person? Princess Bei-yu, you really want to challenge me? You don't dare to accept? Lin Wanyi chuckled in disdain. What makes me dare not to? On Ka-Er Ta mainland, it is based on using your strength to speak and not looking at luck. I was also thinking this. A foolish person with a foolish dream. Lin Wanyi sneered coldly in her heart. She turned her head over to ask Lin Wanjun, fifth sister, on the skills competition, what is the sports that we will be competing against the Imperial College? Lin Wanjun hurriedly replied, because the Imperial College had only listed riding and archery, therefore Principal Tsong he had decided this year the Martial Arts Academy and the Imperial College will be competing against riding and archery skills. Ling Wanyi heard this and proudly smiled. She had a lot of confidence. Her riding and archery skills was the whole Martial Arts Academy's top-notch. Because the ancestors of the Prime Minister Prefecture had advantages to military skills, when it came to Father's generation, Father had gained the top score in the palace examination. Based on the family's relations, his position had gone up rapidly and took the position of the Prime Minister. But Grandfather was still a military leader who had power within the royal court. She, from childhood, had also the talent military-wise. Therefore, Grandfather had basically carried her on the horse's back whilst growing up. Looking across the entire Nanigua, the riding and archery skills within women, if she, Lin Wanyi, were to call as second, No one dared to call us first. Princess Bayu, see at the racetracks. I believe Princess's riding skills are also top-notch. Lin Wanyi's tone included mockery. After she finished, she smiled while walking off with her people. Xiao Rou slowly walked a step and stared at Huang Beiyu with a look of helplessness and speechlessness. Third sister, what are you thinking about? From childhood, you had not even ride the horse a couple times. Don't even mention pulling the bow open. Huang Beiyu glanced at her coldly. This fourth sister, you don't need to worry about it. Even if it will lose faces, I will be the one losing faces. What are you anxious for? You really don't know good. Xiao Rou stomped on her feet, harshly. If it weren't that she was afraid to ruin Princess Zhang's reputation and will be disadvantageous to her in the future, she wouldn't be that kind to say that much, wasting her saliva. Plus, she didn't even care. Whatever you want. When you lose, don't expect anyone to sympathize you. It is her who didn't know how thick the heaven and ground were that she went to provoke her. If she lost, she will be the one to be mocked. Xiao Rou left angrily. Huang Beiyu hugged her hand and stood for a while. The corner of her eyes glanced at the forest behind her. You like to listen to people speak that much? The harsh glance swept over, and a couple of leaves in the forest fell. A thread from the corners of the clothes along with the leaves had blown around. The greenish jade bamboo which was crushed had a young man with white clothes on top of it who was resting upon it. I had came here first, he exclaimed with a smiling expression, the tone extremely warm and gentle as though spring had arrived. If you were a nobleman, you would not be looking or hearing this. Do you not understand? Feng Lian turned his purple eyes around and lazily grinned. I am not a nobleman. This, I know. You do not need to repeat it. Huang Beiyu finished her statement and didn't want to continue talking nonsense with him, wanting to leave. Princess Beiyu, do you really not know how to ride a horse or shoot? The leisure voice rang again from behind. Startled at the racetrack 7. Huang Beiyu responded honestly. Riding and archery, this type of ancient skills, was basically eliminated during the 21st century. She was able to race cars and even able to drive aircraft carriers. Riding skills, she could only be counted as normal. If archery was added into it, then there will probably be some problems. Feng Lian watched her and faintly smiled, suddenly stating, Follow me? Huang Beiyu stared at his back for 3 seconds, but still caught up to him quickly. Deep in the forest, there was a slightly empty open field. Feng Lian brought out 2 horses from within a wooden room. The 2 horses had completely black hairs, both valiant and full of vigor. Huang Beiyu hugged her hands, leaning against the bamboo and lazily inquired, You are going to teach me? You don't want to learn? He smiled while responding. Of course she was willing to learn, but how come he would be that nice about it? He saw the questioning on her face and Feng Lian smiled a little evilly. Just think of it as I am trying to accumulate my moral qualities. Get on the horse. Accumulate moral qualities. Huang Beiyu looked at him and thought it was quite funny. This person was mysterious and vague. She was not even able to see through him in the littlest. However, she still walked over. Her actions were agile and straddled the horse's back easily. That black horse's personality was especially uptight in character. When she had touched it, it immediately moved its hooves and let out a neigh, as though it was infuriated. Huang Beiyu's hand pressed on the horse's head and she moved her body down. She had said a couple sentences to the horse, not knowing what but that black horse which was extremely proud and infuriated before, instantly quieted down. It obediently pushed the hooves lightly against the floor. Feng Lian slightly raised his eyebrows. That black horse's name was Lei Guang. It was the famous known horse with an uptight attitude within the capital city. It was from the far northern savage people's tribe who had tamed him. He was different from other horses. They are rebellious and practically turned a blind eye to humans' orders. He brought Lei Guang out with the intentions of him riding it. Lei Guang listens to his words, and in front of his face, he was considered gentle. However, who knew Huang Beiyu's actions were that quick and suddenly jumped on Lei Guang's back. When he wanted to raise his hand over to stop this, it was already too late. When he had seen that Huang Beiyu calmed Lei Guang down with a couple sentences, he was shocked. Huang Beiyu raised her head and kept her chin up. Your horse is pretty good. She understood the skill of controlling beasts. It was a little different from the controlling of beasts right now. From childhood to now, Master had taught her all sorts of ways to tame wild beasts. She was able to tame an immense, savage, cruel sea monster in such a short period of time. This horse was nothing to her. When you win the competition the following day, I will give Lei Guang to you as a gift. Feng Lian elegantly smiled. He jumped on the other gentle horse's back, then threw a set of bow and arrows at her. Do you know how to pull the bow and shoot? Do you need to say that? After she finished her words, Huang Bei Yu patted the horse's bottom. The black handsome horse shot up as though lightning, and the graceful mane left a fragmented shadow in the air. Immediately, the shadow was already more than 10 feet out. Huang Bei Yu urged the black horse on one side and on the other side. She tried to pull the bow out. Her body was too small, and to speak the truth, it was hard to work herself out on the horse's back. The 12-year-old girl's short feet needed to press against the horse's belly, which was originally difficult already. Plus add on to shaking on the horse and the need to flexibly urge the horse on one side and on the other side, she needed to accurately shoot. It was indeed burdensome. Startled at the racetrack's 8, she had seen those Mongol people before. They were all strong men who were able to urge the horses on rapidly and shoot arrows out at the same times. They were like Guo Jing, who was confident, pleased, and at ease. However, when it came over to her side, she had to endure some sufferings. You do not need to worry about yourself. Just steadily step on the horse saddle, then steadily hold onto the reins and pull the bow. Feng Lianyi's voice was behind, not too close or too far. Huang Bei Yu bit her lips and let out all the strength in her body. Finally, she was able to pull the bow halfway. The horse had shook her, and the arrow had accidentally shot out. Feng Lianyi's body flashed over suddenly and smiled bitterly. You hate me, but you don't need to set your hands on me that quickly. Humph. Huang Bei Yu coldly humphed and restarted at pulling the bow. 2 people, 2 horses. The black handsome horse, the plain-colored clothes, was as though an inked animation in the forest which had flashed over, including the right amount of dynamism and the harmonious feeling. Su su su. From time to time, there was the sound of arrows shooting, which was mixed with a man's deep and elegant voice in which he instructs the girl. The sound of the horse hooves were sometimes close and sometimes far. Not after a while, there was gradually a regular pattern. Each time, it was filled with more strength. The bowstring pulled open as though a round moon, cold and with power. Feng Lian urged the horse on behind her, and his eyes contained more and more of a sense of admiration. She was too smart. She just needed to instruct it once, and she will definitely not make a mistake. Her memory was shocking, and her explosion power was equivalently surprising. When she first got the bow and arrows, she was only able to pull it out to a half moon. But now slowly, she was able to pull it out to a full moon. The accuracy in which the arrows were shot out was slowly improving as well. It could be said that she was a genius at riding and shooting. What Feng Lian didn't know was that although Huang Bei Yu was not familiar with riding horses and shooting arrows, however, when she was at the 21st century, her marksmanship was considerately precise. She had shot those targets moving at quick speeds. Even though she wasn't able to be like the codename in and shoot it 100% accurately, but it was rare that she had missed. In the start, when she just touched the bow, she indeed had not understood what to do with it. However, slowly, she had incorporated the tricks of marksmanship into there, and then she gradually found the method. As long as she can steady the horse, she will have the ability to shoot the arrows. It could be seen that the sun was able to set. At this time, it was almost time for Lingyang College to be finished as well. Huang Bei Yu pulled on the reins to stop the horse and used her sleeves to wipe off the sweat on her face. She turned around to say to Feng Lian, who slowly came over, "Thank you. You don't need to be that formal." When he heard her open her mouth to thank him, the emotions were still true and genuine. Feng Lian's smile slowly turned bigger. However, Huang Bei Yu had coldly replied, "I need to be more formal. After all, we don't know each other that well." "Okay," Feng Lian helpless uttered. "The following day is the skills competition. I wish you luck and to defeat Lin Wang becoming famous with this one battle." defeating her, is not to become famous after this battle. Really? Seeing that she didn't want to speak anymore, Feng Lian tactfully knew not to ask more. He urged the horse on and slowly walked over to her side, riding the horse next to her. The wind within the forest blew at each of their clothes and hair. He was gentle and elegant, but at the same time mischievous and handsome. In this green forest, he was like a devil and at the same time a demon. Compared between the two, Huang Beiyu, who had an indifferent, icily arrogant, imposing manner, was as though a bird who had coincidentally flew through in the forest. She was elegant but cold as though a god. Once the skills competition is over, all the masters in the Imperial College who are on grade 4 or above will be able to go with the professors of the Lingyang College to the surroundings of the floating forest to learn through experience. If you're able to defeat Lin Wan Yi, then you can jump all the way to a grade 4 master. When the time comes, you are probably going to become the first master who has the permission to go into the floating forest within the Imperial College's history. Startled at the racetracks, 9, Feng Lian slowly said. There was not much change in his tone, as though a slight wind had softly passed by. Huang Beiyu slightly thought about it and understood his purpose. He wanted to teach her riding and archery skills because of his hope that she will defeat Lin Wan Yi and become a grade 4 master. Then she will have the permission to go inside the floating forest. The ingredients needed to refine an essence cleansing pill are only found in the floating forest. On the other hand, if normal people were to go into the floating forest by themselves, it would be very dangerous. If the misty forest, in regards to the soldiers and the adventurers, were already considered a layer upon layer danger paradise, then the floating forest was a place where even if they had formed a group of more than hundreds of masters, that they still wouldn't step into the place. In order to build up the strengths of the students of the East Courtyard, Lingyang College would organize masters who are in grade 4 and above each year, who would be led by professors who have rich experience and at the same time a master. They would be training them around the surroundings of the floating forest. In order to locate those few ingredients, if Huang Beiyu were to go into the floating forest by herself, who knew what dangers she would be facing? If she would be able to go with Lingyang College's team, then that would be the best. Once she thought through this point, Huang Beiyu pulled on the reins to stop the horse. The faint voice floated out from her red lips. Prince Yi, don't forget that I am a wolf. Helping a wolf is not something a smart person would do. After she finished, she jumped off the horse's back and hooked the bow and arrow on the horse saddle. Then she turned around and left. The plain shadow slowly walked away in the forest. Feng Lian slightly tilted his head to look. Without knowing, he had really helped her a lot. This action had led him to feel a bit random. A small girl who is so interesting. He couldn't help but to move closer to her. Then, every time he tried to move closer, he would notice that the claws on her body are too sharp. If he were to become careless, then one day he would have given in his life. However, things that are interesting to him, he rarely gave up on it. Royal Court Beiyu. Dong Ling had gotten the growth muscle pill from the market of Bujier. Quickly, it had been sold out, and she used the money earned from selling this plus the money Huang Beiyu had given her from the cart of Lan Mu to buy the ingredients that Huang Beiyu needed. She went back to Lingyang College to wait for Huang Beiyu, but after so long, she still hadn't seen her, which had led her to become anxious. When it was time for class to be over, she had heard of a news which was considered exploding from Lingyang College. Princess Beiyu, who was considered useless from childhood, actually sent out a challenge to Lin Wan Yi, a silver warrior. 2 days after, within Lingyang College's yearly skills competition, Huang Beiyu and Lin Wan Yi were going to compete within riding and archery skills. This news was even more of interest to people than the skills competition itself. After all, Huang Beiyu and Lin Wan Yi were considered popular people of Lingyang College. However, the difference between the two people's strength was not just a little bit. When Dong Ling heard of the news, she originally didn't believe in it. Once she had went around asking people about, then she had realized it was the truth. In her heart, she wondered when young Miss had become so impetuous. Finally, she had seen Huang Beiyu at the college door. Dong Ling hurriedly inquired, "Young Miss, what they're saying is not true, right? That you are going to compete riding and archery skills with Lin Wan Yi?" Dong Ling knew that Huang Beiyu had never touched upon riding and archery skills since childhood. On the other hand, Lin Wanyi had grew up on the horse's back. This competition, from the first time hearing it, could be concluded that it wouldn't be fair. This event won't be rushed. Did you buy the things I told you to buy? Huang Beiyu asked. I bought it. Dong Ling nodded her head and delivered the space ring over to her. She whispered, Young miss, these ingredients are so expensive. There are so much money on the Lan Mu's card, but 30% of it are spent already. Startled at the racetracks, 10. Don't mention it being expensive, but some are also difficult to find. She had ran across all the drug ingredient stores and vendor booths of all sizes within the Buji air market, which had led to reluctantly gather all the ingredients together. Huang Beiyu was secretly speechless. All the rare ingredients are expensive. However, these rare ingredients are just expensive in price. With money, she could basically buy them all. The ingredients needed to refine the essence cleansing pill aren't even able to be bought with money. It's fine. If money is gone, we can slowly earn them back. She was also a refining pharmacist right now. In the future, she will refine higher grade level pills. Money will definitely come rolling in. Young miss, how about the skills competition? Dongling wanted to ask. This event, you definitely don't need to worry about it. If I dare to challenge, then I will not let myself lose. Dong Ling hurriedly nodded her head. If young miss is saying this, Dong Ling will believe in you. They went back home on the horse carriage. On the road, it was inevitable that they had to endure Xiao Rou and Xiao Yun's teasing. Huang Beiyu looked at them coldly. Laugh. Enjoy yourself while laughing. After all, in the future, you guys won't have too many chances to laugh. This entire night, Huang Beiyu stayed in the room to refine the 100 Poisons pill on the Lonely Medicine Saints, 100 Ways of Refinement scroll. She had went over observing this a couple times, but in the end, she still failed. 100 Poisons pill belonged to the pills in the higher grade level. To her, who had just came into the world of refining, she was considered a rookie. It, indeed, contained some difficulty. She watched as the ingredients she told Dong Ling to buy become less and less in amounts, and Huang Beiyu dared not to casually experiment with it anymore. She carefully examined what was said on the 100 Ways of Refinement scroll, big and small, completely and not even letting a small detail go. Nightmare slowly exclaimed in her heart. Actually, begging the honorable spirit is the quickest way. How come you want to make yourself suffer like this? Nightmare was the type of thing that liked to cause troubles for others. He was sealed in the black water prison, unable to come out. The only one who he could communicate with was Huang Beiyu. Therefore he, from time to time, wanted to provoke her to let her speak with him in order to relieve his boredom. This time, Huang Beiyu didn't even bother to reply to him. She was quiet in that vast world, and the brain rapidly spun, hypothesizing all the possible situations over once. Then, she began to refine the pill over again. What's left of the ingredients could only be used to refine twice more. If these 2 times didn't come out to be successful, then she needed to wait until tomorrow. But Zhang Ye's poison probably couldn't be held back each day at this rate. Therefore, she needed to be successful. She sealed the connection between her and Nightmare so they couldn't communicate anymore. When she isn't disturbed by him, then she can refine the pill. The first time, she watched as pill slowly formed into a shape within the purple golden furnace, but then suddenly she didn't know what happened and it turned into a pile of waste. Huang Beiyu was so angry she almost fainted over. She continued to consider from all angles and flipped through the scroll. She stared at it for a good 4 to 6 hours long and pondered hard over it. Then, she began to carefully refine it. The heat control, the 5 different attributed ingredients, the reaction of the spirit, all needed to be controlled to its best. Inside the purple golden furnace, the red flame slowly licked at the 5 attributed ingredients powder. It slowly mixed together, calcined, and condensed. 1 minute after, fiery red pill slowly floated onto the purple golden furnace. It was complete. Huang Beiyu was stunned for a good while, then slowly raised her hand over to take the 100 Poisons pill out. She genuinely placed it on her hand and looked with a sincere look. This 100 Poisons pill was at least a grade 4 pill. She had just learned to refine pills, then was able to refine a grade 4 pill. If this was spread out, it would probably become a fantasy story. Startled at the racetrack's 11. Ice. Huang Bei, you didn't want it to wait any moment longer. She immediately summoned the Ice Luan spirit bird out. The light containing a luster of gems flashed by, and the Ice Luan spirit bird appeared. Huang Bei, you placed the 100 poisons pill into his mouth, letting him bite onto it, ordering, "Give this to Crown Prince Zhang Yi." Ice Luan's spirit bird nodded his head. The enormous body immediately vanished again. She had temporarily solved a problem. Huang Bei, you laid on the bed, exhausted. She thought of the skills competition the following day after, and another sigh of exasperation came out. Royal Court Beiyu. 2 days after, the skills competition in Lingyang College finally began. This day, the entire Lingyang College was out to public. Not only can students come inside, even common people were able to come in and view the scene. Many noble people naturally would come as well. In the East Courtyard, besides the students of martial arts who have to compete with summoners, this year they still needed to compete with the Imperial College's 3 participants. Besides Huang Beiyu, who had challenged Lin Wan Yi, the other 2 students in the Imperial College were Princess Ing Yi and Bu Jier Luo Luo. These 2 people had signed up after they heard Huang Beiyu's challenge. There is no need to talk about Princess Ing Yi's strength. Even if she was placed inside the Martial Arts Academy, she would still be a top-notch member. Speaking of Luo Luo, according to some, he had the experience of following soldiers and adventurers into the misty forest to complete some tasks. However, he hadn't passed the test for summoners and warriors when he first came to school. Therefore, his strength was 0. Professor Gua didn't count on him either. The only reason he chose Luo Luo was because no one else registered. Luo Luo had volunteered himself, so why would he reject him? In regards to Huang Beiyu, when he heard that she had sent out a challenge to Lin Wan Yi, in his heart he was sad but also happy. He felt complicated. All these years, within the Imperial College, he had been stupidly teaching a group of royals who were weak and good for nothing. With great difficulty, he had finally met someone brave and he was happy. But when he thought of the person who Huang Beiyu decided to challenge was Lin Wan Yi, he started to worry about it. However, with such a huge ambition, he could not scold her. He could only encourage her. In the bright morning, he had seen Huang Beiyu come to the Imperial College. Professor Guo explained to her the different types of riding and archery skills with great patience. It was to the point where callus had appeared in her ears. She hurriedly found an excuse to go use the bathroom to hide. Lingyang College's bathroom had no difference to the ones in the 21st century. It's just that the soundproof quality was worse. She had just let out a sigh when she heard someone walk in, talking in a soft voice. "Big sister, she thinks it's not safe. That Huang Beiyu is too sneaky. What if she plays a trick then? If big sister loses, it will be losing her face." The voice of the person who spoke, she was able to hear who it was. Lin Wanjun. When she heard of her own name, Huang Beiyu furrowed her eyebrows. She just wanted to walk out to scare Lin Wanjun to let her know speaking behind people's back wasn't a wise choice. Before she was able to walk out, the other person opened their mouth. "Don't worry, young miss." Jing Wangfei had bought the horsekeeper who looked after the horses and let him place some materials under the horse. No matter how smart Huang Beiyu was, she will still lose. It's the big sister who has a future vision. This trick is extremely amazing. That Huang Beiyu will definitely not win. If she were to win, will anyone look upon to us the East Courtyard? Right, she's just an useless person. She had already been under the limelight once, and that's still not enough? She still want to be under it a second time? She's dreaming. After they finished, the 2 people went into their own bathroom to do their business. Huang Beiyu took the chance to come out, and a tint of coldness flashed through her eyes. Startled at the racetracks, 12, Lin Wan Yi, "You good. I don't play tricks on you, and you end up playing tricks on me. Since you were the one causing troubles, then don't blame it on me." The corner of her lips tilted up. She found a place where no one was at and took out the space ring from her black cloak. She quietly vanished into the shadows of the corner. Inside the horse stalls, one after another, the horses were pulled in after examination. Besides having a competition within the Imperial College, there are also competitions between the Martial Arts Academy. Therefore, There was a couple of tins of good horses. Outside each of the manger, there is a serial number. Huang Beiyu was as though a ghost and walked over to the horse stall in accordance to her serial number. She looked at the horse, which had red eyes containing disinterest. That horse kept its head down. There was a lot of gum in the eyes, so it could be easily seen that someone had done something to it. Huang Beiyu took out a pill from her space ring and shoved it into the horse's mouth. This was a lower grade level antidote she had found out about when observing the 100 Ways of Refinement scroll. It was easy to refine. In order to let herself become more comfortable with refining, she would sometimes use this low-grade level pills to experiment. It's almost starting. The first competition is between the future Jing Wangfei and Princess Beiyu. It will definitely be interesting. I want to see this later on. This time, Princess Beiyu will probably suffer. I really don't want her to lose. Yes, I also wish that Princess Beiyu will win. However, the opponent is a silver warrior. This hope is too small. A couple of the horsekeepers laughed while walking in. Huang Beiyu's body flashed by and left from the other side of the horse stall. After she took off the cloak, she walked around a couple circles casually, then came to the racetrack. That racetrack was an empty field large in space. On both sides, there was inspectors on the viewing platform. At this point, it was filled with a vast crowd. In the front of the racetrack, there was a target for archery and all sorts of obstacles in order to test the riding skills. The first round of competition was about to begin. Lin Wan-yi walked over from the middle of a group of female martial arts masters' escort. She wore silver armor and the hairs were pulled up. She held a red horse whip in her hand, making herself seem a person with a formidable look. She wasn't the most beautiful of the royal young misses, but that composed and imposing manner was definitely one of the best. Once she appeared, there were a lot of people in the audience who began to cheer and shout for her. Lin Wan-yi raised her head to smile when her gaze had led her to see Huang Beiyu, who was walking casually over from the opposing side. Huang Beiyu had worn only a black casual riding suit. She stepped on the lightweight deerskin boots, and her hairs were braided and placed in front of her chest. When she walked by the shelf of weapons, she casually picked up an ordinary horse whip, whipping it a couple times and reluctantly used it. Lin Wan-yi chuckled out loud. How come Princess Beiyu had came here by yourself? Why don't you even order a maid to follow you? My family's Dongling don't like seeing scenes where people are fighting, so she is at home resting. Huang Beiyu answered, as though not caring. Lin Wan-yi stared at her in disdain. No wonder people said that Princess Beiyu was an useless person. In the residence of Princess Zhang, her status is worse than a maid's. Walking out the door but not bringing a maid with you. What type of young miss from a wealthy family is that called? The people who came today, many are from the royal and noble families. They are all powerful and rich. Everyone will be watching, so Princess should display her best. Huang Beiyu gazed at her and faintly replied, You too? She finished her words, then walked towards the racetrack. Lin Wanji stared at her back and coldly smiled. You will suffer later on. The horsekeeper had already pulled the horses out. Lin Wan-yi and Huang Beiyu's horses were lined in front of them. They are the ones in the first round of competition. Startled at the racetracks, 13. Huang Beiyu walked in the direction of the deep red color horse. Lin Wan-yi gave a look towards the horsekeeper who was holding onto the horse in the far distance. The horsekeeper secretly nodded his head. Lin Wan-yi smiled, subtle to people's eyes. Princess Ingye's turn was at the second round. Therefore, she had came also. The simple riding suit wasn't as high-profiled as Lin Wan-yi's, but Princess Ingye's naturally nobleness distinctly pushed Lin Wan-yi under. Beiyu, later on be careful. Don't try too hard. Princess Ingyi walked over to Huang Beiyu, and the corner of her eyes swept through Lin Wan-yi. Jing Wang, as usual, held some negative thoughts to the crown prince. Princess Ingyi, towards the future Jing Wangfei, naturally didn't have some good impression. She knew that Lin Wan-yi was very powerful. This time, Beiyu was competing against her, and she will probably suffer. However, under everyone's gaze in the racetrack, if this Lin Wan-yi dared to do something, she will not let her go. Huang Beiyu nodded her head. Thank you, Princess, for caring. After she finished, she jumped onto the horse's back. She pulled on the reins and cast a side glance towards the audience. Indeed, many royals and nobles had came. Within the royal family, Crown Prince, Jing Wang, the third prince, and a couple of young princes/princesses arrived. Xiao Yaowang came too. He seemed to be staring at her. When her gaze turned over, he opened his folding fan and smiled towards her as though the spring wind. Huang Beiyu nodded her head, out of politeness. Her gaze softly swept by Xiao Yaowang's side towards Feng Lian-yi. He was just casually sitting and smiling at her. Huang Beiyu ignored him and continued to sweep her eyes through the audience. The residents of Angwagong was in there too. That old fat man tried to cram himself onto the seat and looked at her with a fierce-looking face. Xueqi stared at her, gaining happiness out of her misfortune. Family Xiao was on the other side. Xiao Yuancheng actually arrived as well. He viewed her with an ashen look. Huang Beiyu didn't want to glance any longer, so she moved her gaze away. She picked up the bow and arrow, inspecting it. Lin Wanyi also got on her horse, pulling at the reins. She looked at her. The bow and arrows on the racetracks were not the ones used by Imperial College. The ones here are actually used on war. She didn't believe that Huang Beiyu would be able to pull it open. Professor Gua and Professor Lei were both referees. They both cheered for their own students. The person who issued an order brought out a tongluo in front of the two horses. He knocked on it 3 times and suddenly, the noisy racetrack had all began quiet. The audiences all placed their gaze over to look at the useless person challenging a silver warrior as heard. Principal Tsang He was in the middle of spot for referees. He touched his beard, smiling. Although the competition is important, but plus remember to not use any methods as wish to win and to not hurt anyone on the racetracks. This was Lingyang College's rules for many years. The competition is competition, which is different from the arena where whether death or being live didn't matter. Yes. Huang Beiyu and Lin Wanyi both cupped one fist into the other hand as a sign of respect. They saluted to Principal Tsang He and the referees. Principal Tsang He, then, satisfyingly sat down. The order issuer raised his hand, and under the fiery sunlight, the tongluo had reflected a glaring light. Within this huge competition, that light contained a dignified and sacred presence. Dong. After it rang, the order issuer's voice also sounded out, "Begin." The two horses seemed to fly out at nearly the same times, the same speed, and each of them not letting the other. This beginning led the audience to be in shock. Didn't people say that Huang Beiyu was an useless person? Looking at her riding skills, she seemed to know what she is doing. That body, which was confident and flexible, was better than Lin Wanyi. Professor Gua, who was on the referee platform, also had his brows raised in delight. Who knew Huang Beiyu had helped him grow his faces? Startled at the racetracks, 14. Principal Tsang He smiled, rather gratified. Princess Beiyu, this stance was rather like Princess Zhang. Professor Gua immediately smiled as though a flower had bloomed. He made it seem as though he was the one being complimented. Principal is saying it right. The Princess Beiyu right now is still young in age and already able to keep pace with Professor Gua's favorite pupil. He, as expected, like mother like daughter. Once Professor Gua heard this, his face immediately turned heavy. Originally he wanted to attack him, but he had brought up Princess Zhang. Therefore, Professor Gua didn't dare to say anything. He kept his anger in a ball within his stomach and secretly prayed that Lin Wanyi will grow faces for him. Last time, Xue Ming led him to lose his faces. This time, if Lin Wanyi were to be defeated by Huang Beiyu, then who knew where his old face should be kept at? On the racetracks, Lin Wanyi and Huang Beiyu's horses nearly jumped over the wooden fence at the same time. Under the sunlight, the two horses, the moment the horses' manes rose, under the bright light, Lin Wanyi seemed to be dizzy. She felt as though Huang Beiyu's horse was actually quicker than hers. How is this possible? Don't mention the fact that Huang Beiyu was just a 12-years-old girl and was a useless person from childhood. Even if she was a genius, she shouldn't possibly be quicker than her. Her horse, she had given it medicine. Reasonably, that horse's stamina should slowly be deterred. How come it moved quicker than hers instead? After the deep red horse landed on the ground, It indeed races ahead of Lin Wanyi's horse. Huang Beiyu's skill of controlling beasts was one of the best. This horse was under her control, so it did as she wished. How she wanted to race ahead of Lin Wanyi, it will do so. After she passed the obstacles, it was time for her to pull the bow and shoot. Whoever first shot at the target in the front was the one who won. As soon as the deep red horse landed, Huang Beiyu picked up the bow and arrows. She made sure the horse was moving steadily before pulling at the bow. Humph! Don't you think of passing me? Lin Wanyi didn't show fear either. Her horse was picked under careful examination, different from Huang Beiyu's horse which had been poisoned. Her whip slammed against the horse's back, and that horse moved its hooves against the ground, running desperately. Quickly, it surpassed Huang Beiyu. Lin Wanyi took the bow and arrows. She was worthy of herself, having been trained since young that the bow was pulled into a full moon. She aimed at the target and the arrow shot out. Her archery skills were like what she was proud of since childhood. How can that Huang Beiyu be compared to her? This arrow will definitely hit the target. Lin Wanyi confidently tilted the corner of her lips up. But that smile at the corner of her lips hadn't turned to its fullest when suddenly a noise from the air. The arrow she shot out was broken into two halves by another arrow in the air. It fell on the ground, a little pitiful. Lin Wanji had her mouth open and eye widened. How is it possible? The viewing platform was also silent for a moment. Then, everyone began to yell. Good too powerful. Accurate. So accurate. Don't mention that Lin Wanyi was shocked, but those who had an understanding of Huang Beiyu, which one of them hadn't revealed an expression as though slapped on the face a couple 10 times? How is it possible? Xiao Zhongqi lowly shouted. He looked towards Xiao Yuancheng. Father, is that really our family's useless person? Xiao Yuancheng's face was extremely surprised. After half a moment, he snapped out of his trance, a little confused. This, father, when did the third sister learn to ride horses and shoot arrows? How come I have ever heard of that before? Xiao Yun's voice also contained a deep feeling of envy. Originally, she wanted to come to see Huang Beiyu embarrass herself, but who knew? The moment she came out, she was under the limelight. That girl is Huang Beiyu? Startled at the racetracks, 15. That girl is Huang Beiyu? Family Zhao's old father who never really opened his mouth to speak. Xiao Qi Yuan suddenly spoke, the voice deep but with strength. Her skills are pretty good. It's just that her moves don't seem too mature and she is lacking in strength. She looks like she just learned to ride a horse not long ago. A person who just learned to ride a horse can't possibly be that powerful. Grandfather, all this time, Huang Beiyu is a useless person. Xiao Yun heard from Xiao Qi Yuan's tone containing a tint of admiration and immediately opened her mouth. Out of dissatisfaction, Xiao Qi Yuan slightly furrowed his eyebrows. He knew that Huang Beiyu was a useless person, so when he saw her moves, he knew it belonged to someone who just learned to ride a horse. If she learned to do so before, her moves and skills would have been much more mature than now. Yuan Cheng, who taught her to ride and shoot? Xiao Qi Yuan looked at Xiao Yuancheng with seriousness. Xiao Yuancheng instantly replied with respect. Father, no one taught her before. Could it be that when she came into the Imperial College, it was under Professor Guo's instruction? Father, did you forget? The third sister had just come to the Imperial College a couple days ago. She had been to the riding/shooting class only once. Plus that time, Professor Guo had taken them to the martial arts academy where she was at the arena fighting with Xue Ming. Xiao Zhonglei pulled his gaze away from Huang Beiyu's confident and agile shadow, speaking in a defensive tone. Once the words were out, Xiao Qi Yuan's gaze suddenly turned deep. No one had taught her before. If she never learned this before in the past, and was that powerful when she came on the racetracks, then could it be that Huang Beiyu wasn't a useless person but instead a genius? No, how is that possible? The vitality within Huang Beiyu's body couldn't even be condensed together. It is definitely not possible that she is a genius. Those on the viewing platform, more than half, held an unbelievable gaze while discussing this. When they had seen the scene where Huang Beiyu's arrow filled with power and strength, they had no idea how to remain calm. Only the side containing Xiao Yao Wang and Feng Lian Yi, they were considered rather calm. The folding fan softly tapped at the knee. Xiao Yaowang stated, "Family Zhao's people have no eyes ah." Such a top-notch genius, yet they had treated her as though a useless person. I think that Xiao Qi Yuan is probably going to be so angry. I dare to bet right now that many of the people now still think that the arrow Huang Bei you had just shot was based on her luck. Feng Lian casually exclaimed, his eyes not pulling away from the confident but cold shadow on the racetracks. Xiao Yaowang smiled. This Wang also thinks so. However, Yu Er is still young. When she slowly grows up, those people who had looked wrongly of her will regret it. Feng Lianyi's purple eyes slowly blended in with a deep smile. Far more than just regret, ah? Family Xiao, the group of people added together, are not even enough for Huang Beiyu to play with. That girl at such a young age, but smart and sneaky, cold and heartless, led people to love and hate her at the same time. Within the racetracks, Lin Wanyi, who had shot out the arrow full of confidence, had actually been stopped so easily. Lin Wanyi, no matter what, couldn't believe this. After a long time, she snapped out of her trance. Huang Beiyu had already urged the horse on a great distance. "Stupid girl, I have underestimated you." Lin Wanyi yelled deeply out of anger. "You have luck the first time, but that doesn't mean you will for the second time." She urged the horse on, trying to catch up. Lin Wanyi wasn't someone who ate vegetables. Her riding and archery skills were of top quality. The first time, she failed. The second time, she quickly adjusted her mode and pulled the bow to a full moon once again. When she was almost done preparing her second arrow, Lin Wanyi looked from the corner of her eyes, only to see Huang Beiyu's arrow already shooting out. That arrow was very accurate, very quick. Based on her many years of experience, it will definitely hit the target. Startled at the racetracks, 16, Lin Wanyi thought of something in her heart. She, out of nowhere, aimed the arrow toward Huang Beiyu's back. On the horse's back, there was a lot of shaking. Her arrow moved just slightly, and no one could tell just who she was trying to aim at. When the time comes, even if shot at Huang Beiyu, she could also place the blame on the shaking of the horse, which led her to lose her aim. After all, no one else would be able to catch her mistake. In the split second, Lin Wanyi had already loosened her fingers, and the sharp arrow broke into the sky. So it was as though split silk. The unrest air seemed to have been slashed across. Huang Beiyu at the same time had shot her arrow out. She slightly squinted her eyes, watching the angle at which the arrow flew out at. It will definitely reach it. When she shot out her arrow, the deep red horse had raised its hooves as though excitedly letting out a neigh. Under the sunlight, that one person, one horse seemed to be plated on a layer of golden light. It was as though shadow which was cut off by time, brilliant and dazzling, which led people to not dare to look at the noble and stern, imposing manner. They seemed to be looking at a god. She watched as her own arrow is already aiming towards the target, and Huang Beiyu just started to tilt the corner of her lips up when suddenly from behind, there was a noise breaking through the sky and slashing through the air. It aimed straight towards her back. In the 21st century, after experiencing numerous life and death tasks, her reaction towards danger and reaction speed was much higher than normal people's. She turned her body around, and there was no place to hide. Under the situation where her feet couldn't be on the ground, she could only harshly raise her hand out and use her own hand to violently catch that arrow. There was a rule in Lingyang College where during the riding/shooting competition, the side that first left the horse's back is the losing side. That target was too far while she and Lin Wanyi were only a couple feet away. Naturally, it would be quicker to shoot her off the horse. When she fell off the horse, Huang Beiyu's arrow will hit the target, but the person who ends up losing is Huang Beiyu. Within the racetracks, not only is it competing against skills but also wisdom. Lin Wanyi had already calculated everything and was just proud of herself when she saw Huang Beiyu caught her arrow, which she shot out with her full strength. At that moment, she was shocked. How is that possible? That arrow's strength was too powerful. Huang Beiyu was on the horse. The body was pushed so far that she almost fell off the horse. She held onto the deep red horse's manes tightly, and when the body was swung back, she dangerously got back on the horse's back again. However, although she had caught the arrow and it hadn't shot into her back, it still rubbed against the hollow of her palm and made it bleed badly. The arrowhead had slightly pricked above her shoulder. Ever since she finished her apprenticeship, she had never met this kind of failure before. If it was the same grade-level master, like for example when she went face-to-face with N, even if she were to lose dishonorably, it wouldn't matter. But what thing is this Lin Wanyi? First, she placed medicine on her horse. Now she dared to play a sneak attack on her? She originally just wanted her to suffer a little bit. The Grand Silver Warrior is defeated by this obscure and unknown invalid. If this type of news was spread out, then what faces would she have in order to stand her feet on Lin Huai City? Plus, if the situation in which Lin Wanyi had placed medicine within her horse had spread to other people's ears, such a petty-minded and vicious woman wouldn't be able to save her future Jing Wangfei's spot. She, Huang Beiyu, just loves to play tricks on people. Play tricks on them so that even if they suffered, they can't say anything. But now, she didn't want to use such warm and gentle methods. Girl, you dared to provoke me. I will let you know what is called treacherous and murderous. The moment when Huang Beiyu caught the arrow and her body harshly landed on the horse's back, the cold and icy eyes raised up and glared at the horse Lin Wanyi sat on. The skill of controlling beasts. As soon as that horse came into contact with her secret, absolute powerful gaze, it unexpectedly started to act insane. It moved its hooves around and rushed in random places. Startled at the racetracks, 17, Lin Wanyi held a lifeless look. After being shaken by the horse, she let out a blood-curdling screech before she fell off the horse's back. The surrounding people all let out a gasp of horror. Lin Wanyi wanted to pull herself up from the ground, being in this difficult situation where the armor on her body was in disorder. This horse is insane. She had just thought of this in her heart when that insane horse suddenly let out a violent neigh and spun its body around. It suddenly raised its front hooves while Lin Wanyi was just about to get up and caught off guard. The heavy hooves kicked at her face. At the moment, fresh blood harshly flooded out. Lin Wanyi miserably shrieked and fell back on the ground again. That horse raised its front hooves once more and stepped onto Lin Wanyi's chest with a huge force. All the surrounding people within the racetracks saw only Lin Wanyi's body, which was like a shrimp, curling herself up. A mouthful of fresh blood left her mouth. Under the bright sunlight, it formed a beautiful curve. Then she stopped moving. On the other hand, the crazy horse, not sure why, wanted to keep stepping on Lin Wanyi. It was as though it wanted to step her into meat paste, then it would be willing to stop. Bastard! A voice filled with prestige rang. Principled Song. He raised the sleeves of his clothes, and right then, it had beaten the horse that went crazy out. From when Lin Wanyi pointed her arrow towards Huang Beiyu to when Lin Wanyi was hurt badly by her horse, everything happened within a few seconds. The audience on the viewing platform wasn't even able to let out a shocked gasp when everything was over. Princess Beiyu's arrow steadily shot into the target, and the tail feathers of the arrow were still trembling. In the meanwhile, Lin Wanyi's arrow hadn't shot into the target. Instead, it shot towards Huang Beiyu, and Lin Wanyi herself had fallen off the horse. The person who lost, without a doubt, was naturally the future Jing Wangfei. This moment, randomly within the viewing platform, actually rarely any people revealed a look of sympathy towards Lin Wanyi. She laid on the ground with her whole body covered in fresh blood. Lin Wanyi, whose face was nearly ruined by the horse hooves, could be said as an appalling scene. Principled Song. He immediately rushed over, propping out the wind-attributed boundary in order to heal Lin Wanyi. Within the official competition, although Lingyang College will lose its faces, when a student is injured, they must heal them. Huang Beiyu got off from the horse's back and took out the arrow from her shoulder. This action brought out a lot of blood, but she just slightly furrowed her eyebrows. The face's serious coldness hadn't been rid of, and she looked at Lin Wanyi with a gloomy look. Even if she didn't die, she needed to make her handicapped. Humph! Is it you who is behind this? A voice shouted loudly. It was Government Minister Lin's elder master Lin Zicheng. He watched as his actual sister had endured such a heavy injury, then looked at Huang Beiyu, who held a gloomy look. Right then, he thought it must be that his sister was plotted against by her. Before the competition, he had heard Lin Wanyi mention that this Wang Beiyu is a sneaky girl. That day on the arena, it's because she had played tricks that led her to win against Xue Ming. During that time, Lin Wanyi was worried that in this competition, Huang Beiyu would also play tricks. He thought that under everyone's eyes, Huang Beiyu, who is a useless person, no matter what method she had, she wouldn't be able to play tricks. But his sister, who is a grand silver warrior, actually lost to this girl who was not heard of. This type of result. Other than Huang Beiyu playing tricks, what other explanation could there be? Lin Zicheng pulled out his sword, pointing it to Huang Beiyu. You use despicable methods to win, my sister. I won't let you go. Zicheng, stop. Government Minister Lin hollered. That Lin Zicheng didn't care. Government Minister Lin turned his head around to see the crown prince walking over with a gloomy face. His heart felt heavy right then. Startled at the racetracks, 18, this Huang Beiyu is part of the imperial family. No matter what reason there is, Crown Prince will definitely be on Huang Beiyu's side. Zicheng, place your sword away. What happened today? I believe the Crown Prince and Principal Song he will distinguish between the right and wrong and give your sister justice. Government Minister Lin's voice was filled with authority. That Lin Zicheng, no matter how much he didn't want to, was not a stupid person either. He naturally understood father's meaning and got ready to place his sword away, though with hatred. At this time, Huang Beiyu slowly raised the arrow in her hand, which was covered in blood. Ding, she placed it against Lin Zicheng's sword. You were saying that I played tricks? The indifferent voice, cold eyes, slowly looked towards Lin Zicheng. That pair of eyes, cold yet indifferent, contained faint anger. It actually led people, from the bottom of their hearts, produce a feeling of chilliness. Lin Zicheng's heart couldn't help but feel weak. However, in order to cover this type of weakness, he still hollered. Is that not the case? He refused to believe that a useless person was able to win against his sister. Huang Beiyu only thought this was amusing. These people, do they all choose to close their eyes? Where's the evidence? Lin Zicheng raised his head and with confidence, pointed his hand towards the insane horse. That horse suddenly turned crazy, which is the best evidence. Within the skills competition, all the horses have been through careful examination. Before the competition, all the horses are looked after by the horsekeeper. If it weren't for you who bought the horsekeeper and placed poison, how would this horse suddenly become crazy? Huang Beiyu, originally, wanted to teach this arrogant guy a lesson and let him know what it is like to use sneaky methods, but when she suddenly heard him say this, the expression on her face turned subtle. Bought the horsekeeper, placed poison? Elder brother, you can't talk nonsense, ah? How can that horsekeeper be bought? Once Lin Wanjun heard this, she hurriedly rushed over and pulled on Lin Zicheng's sleeves. She whispered. Lin Wanyi and Lin Zicheng were the pair of siblings born from the same mother, so he wasn't that close to Lin Wanjun. When he heard Lin Wanjun say this, he only took it as she, the daughter of a concubine, was jealous of Lin Wanyi, who was favored, so she wanted to stop him from investigating thoroughly. Therefore, he waved his hand off and moved Lin Wanjun to the side, coldly stating, the Grand Princess Beiyu naturally would be able to buy off someone. Huang Beiyu's face turned. Okay, since Elder Master Lin had already said this, then you better have 100% faith. Then let's let Principal Song He and the Crown Prince investigate this. Right, investigate thoroughly. Lin Zicheng also replied loudly. The Crown Prince slightly scrunched his eyebrows. His gaze was indifferent as well as his tone. Lin Zicheng, you know what the punishment would be for accusing the imperial family? Lin Zicheng was stunned. Accusing the imperial family is the same as a lower status person offending one that is higher in status. If the punishment is heavy, then they would be beaten to death. He watched as Lin Zicheng was shocked, and that government minister Lin was quite slick. He immediately came up and wiped off his tears. Crown Prince, this daughter was hurt by a crazy horse. There must be something hidden within this event, Although this old official believes Princess Beiyu's personality and how she will never do such a despicable event, if the Crown Prince doesn't investigate thoroughly, it is probably hard to convince the masses, Lin Wanjun was by the side and secretly anxious. How come even father came out? If this event were to be investigated and involve sister, then at that time the resident of government Minister Lin will be given the crime of the intention to harm the imperial family. If that were to happen, the entire family Lin will be over. But there are too many people over here, and she can't run over to tell father and elder brother. She could only quietly go out to find that horsekeeper. Startled at the racetracks, 19. No matter what, she needed to kill him to prevent him from speaking first. Otherwise, under harsh punishments, if he were to say that it was her sister who told him to place medicine to Princess Baiyu's horse, then it will be over. She just walked out from the crowd and saw a tall, handsome warrior carrying a skinny and short man out, walking over. Lin Wanjun looked and her face changed. The guy who was carried out was that horsekeeper. Lin Wanjun's heart was thumping hard. She raised her head to stare at the tall man. Isn't he the bodyguard by the side of Bei Yao? Was Prince E? His name was Yuan Di. This Yuan Di was very powerful. He had a lot of talent within martial arts, and she heard he was also a summoner. Although he rarely revealed his skills to the public, all the years, he was able to protect a young man who resided in the enemy's country as a hostage showed that he wasn't a good person to provoke. Lin Wanjun knew that she can't easily provoke him either. If this were to turn into a huge commotion, it will make her seem more guilty. With one hand, Yuan Di carried the horsekeeper and kept his eyes on Lin Wanjun as he walked by. He pushed through the crowd and walked in, throwing that horsekeeper on the ground casually. Di, what is the matter? Feng Lian Elegant's voice sounded out. Yuan Di bent his waist and respectfully replied, Prince, this person was sneaking around and I have caught him. Show mercy, ah. I know nothing. That horsekeeper, the instant he saw so many people of authority, even the principal Song He and the crown prince stared at him, at that moment was frightened in his heart. Hey, isn't this the horsekeeper who looked after Princess Baiyu and young Miss Lin's horses? It was unclear who said this, but the surrounding people all turned their gazes to the horsekeeper. The horsekeeper trembled with fear and couldn't stop kowtowing on the ground, begging for mercy. That Lin Zicheng walked over in a large stride, screaming, Who is the one telling you to do this? Speak. Humph, if you dared to lie even one word, this princess will definitely let your whole be executed. Princess Ying Ye's voice rang. That imposing manner was not any less than Lin Zicheng. Lin Zicheng looked at her for a second and dared not to say anything more. Principal Song He slowly approached them. The sleeves of the robe fluttered about. He stroked his beard. What happened today will be concerning to many. If you don't speak the truth, I will send you into the 7th tower to endure the punishment flame when the time comes. I'll say it. I'll say it. That horsekeeper, the moment he heard the punishment flame, immediately kowtowed his head. The teeth trembled and spoke, stuttering. It's Jing Wangfei. Jing Wangfei? What Jing Wangfei? What nonsense are you blabbering on about? Lin Zicheng, who was missing a tendon in his brain, still hadn't reacted. In Government Minister Lin's heart, though, he felt frightened. Secretly, he knew it was going for the worse. He hurriedly exclaimed, This horsekeeper is unclear in his words and seemed to be in a crazy mode. He is probably frightened to the point where he is stupid now. It's better to pull him away and let him calm down first before asking anything. But that horsekeeper already opened his mouth and said the keyword, so how would the surrounding people easily just drop the subject? Old Lin, it's better to ask it clearly now. Otherwise, it won't be good if you end up placing the blame on the wrong person. Prime Minister Qi unhurriedly opened his mouth. Prime Minister Qi and Government Minister Lin never got along with each other. The two people, one worshipping the third prince and the other worshipping Jing Wang, naturally would find chances to sabotage each other. Government Minister Lin's face wasn't good and he forced a smile on. It's because I am afraid that I will place the blame on the wrong person, so I can't let someone who is crazy speak some nonsense. I think that he is quite normal. How is he crazy? Government Minister Lin doesn't need to worry. Principal Song He and Imperial Brother are here. They won't distort the truth deliberately and blame it on a good person. Princess Ying Ye's voice was loud and clear. startled at the racetracks, 20. Her eyes were as brilliant as though the stars. She looked towards Huang Beiyu and faintly smiled. Princess is saying the right thing. Government Minister Lin immediately lowered his head, not daring to say anything more. Princess Ingyi slightly raised her chin and said to the horsekeeper, "Talk. What do you know?" When that horsekeeper saw Lin Wanyi that miserable ending, he knew she had lost her power. If he didn't say the truth at this time, he would have to bear the consequences with her. Therefore, he told them about how Lin Wanyi had ordered for him to place medicine to Huang Beiyu's horse. "You're lying. How could my sister do such a thing?" Lin Ziqing hadn't finished listening to this when he angrily shouted this out loud. He wanted to rush over and kill that horsekeeper with his sword. The horsekeeper was frightened to the point where he started climbing forward and hid behind Principal Zhang He. This small person didn't lie. Young Miss Lin gave me 50 gold coins and said that after it's done, she will give me another 50. Once the words were out, everyone gasped. They all looked towards Government Minister Lin with an unknown look. Who knew the residence of Government Minister Lin, who was known for its strict manner and etiquette, had taught out such a cruel and despicable daughter? That Jing Wang was also blind, which led him to get engaged with a girl like her. For a while, Government Minister Lin's face was red then. Later on, it turned white. But at this time, the Crown Prince and many royals/nobles were present. It isn't the best time to let out his anger, so he could only bow down to the Crown Prince. "Prince, there is probably some misunderstanding." He hadn't finished his words when the maid who was looking after Lin Wanyi let out a gasp. "Young Miss woke up?" Lin Wanyi painfully groaned as she woke up. The whole face was filled with bloodstains. The lips were purple. She slowly opened her eyes, and the moment she saw the horsekeeper who kowtowed on the ground, everything in front of her seemed to turn black. She knew what she did was out. "You!" She wanted to raise her hand, trying a couple times. It was impossible. That horsekeeper exclaimed, "Young Miss Lin, I don't want your money. I am just begging you to let me go." Lin Wanyi spat out a mouthful of blood. The tears recklessly flowed out, and she angrily stared at Huang Beiyu before she fainted. Lin Wanyi's behavior was the most powerful evidence. This meant that she did order for the horsekeeper to place medicine in Huang Beiyu's horse. Government Minister Lin almost fell to the ground and fainted as well. On the other hand, Lin Zicheng had no idea his impulsiveness and recklessness had actually revealed his sister's crimes, which led to his regret. The Crown Prince Zhang Yi coldly swept his eyes through the people of the residence of Government Minister Lin. He icily replied, "How does Government Minister Lin want to resolve this?" Government Minister Lin's face was pale white and unable to say anything for a while. However, many people by the side retorted, "Please, Crown Prince should act justly." Yes, Family Lin's people not only wanted to harm Princess Beiyu, but they had also accused the princess. Such despicable behavior is practically losing Nan Yigua's faces. "Please, Crown Prince needs to give justice to Princess Beiyu. Let Family Lin's people kowtow down and apologize to the princess." Right. Kowtow and apologize. Princess Beiyu was the person who won anyway. Family Lin's people are too shameful. In the beginning, it was just the common people who created a disturbance, but later on, slowly, many of the noblemen and officials also joined in. Then, Prime Minister Qi had quietly ordered his own henchmen, and Prime Minister Qi's people also created a disturbance. The residents of Ongwagong's people wanted to help the residents of the government minister, but that was impossible. At this time, it is much more important to save themselves. That Huang Beiyu was practically a bearer of ill luck. It seemed as though people who offended her will all bear bad luck for a long time. When Lin Zicheng heard these voices trying to form a disturbance, Lin Zicheng was so angry that his neck turned red. The baby phoenix's first cry. 1. How can I possibly kowtow and apologize to a weak person? On Karti mainland, people used their strength to speak. The status of powerful people determined that they would be above normal people. A powerful person has the ability to freely control their actions. Therefore, even if someone tried to force them to surrender under power, they could also choose not to lower their heads. Due to this, This is the reason for Xueming and other people's existence. Their strength was powerful, so does it really matter if they bullied a couple weak people? Those who do not have strengths would never have the ability to speak up. Lin Zicheng looked at Huang Beiyu from above. He had a big and tall figure. Huang Beiyu's figure in his eyes naturally was not worth seeing. The disdainful look led Huang Beiyu to slightly squint her eyes. Weak person? This phrase used on her body was a completely big joke. She cast a side glance towards Lin Zicheng. If I am not a weak person, then you will kowtow and apologize to me? Lin Zicheng raised his eyebrows, chuckling out loud as though he heard the funniest joke in the whole world. You said you are not a weak person? Your reputation of being a useless person, who of Nan Igua doesn't know? You want to deceive this young master? When Lin Zicheng replied, many people in their hearts also agreed. After all, the rumors of Princess Beiyu being a useless person had been there for a long time. When Princess Zhang passed away, many people felt regret and helpless. Many people's hearts felt regret that if Princess Beiyu even had a little strength, she wouldn't be insulted by Lin Zicheng to this point. No matter the type of gazes the surrounding people held, Huang Beiyu just raised her head and looked straight at Lin Zicheng. I'm going to ask one more time. If I am not a weak person, will you kowtow and apologize to me? Lin Zicheng also placed his smile away. He was always proud of his talent in martial arts. Right? If you can really win me with real swords and real spears, I will immediately kowtow you and apologize. The corner of Huang Beiyu's mouth slightly tilted up. You said this yourself? Right. Lin Zicheng was rather arrogant. Huang Beiyu turned her head around to look at the Crown Prince Zhan Yi and Principal Cang He as well as Xiao Yaowang. Please, everyone be witnesses. Zhan Yi and Principal Cang He were slightly hesitant before they nodded their heads. On the other hand, Xiao Yaowang looked at Feng Lianyi, then opened his folding fan, elegantly stating, I am very willing to serve for Princess. Feng Lianyi stared at Lin Zicheng, a little sympathetic. This stupid person who is missing a muscle was still immensely pleased with himself. He didn't even know he walked right into a wolf's trap. From the start, he was plotted by Huang Beiyu, and he had no idea. Now, he still wanted to compete against her. What a stupid person who knew nothing. Huang Beiyu, this girl, was also quite sneaky. She was practically bullying a stupid person. Huang Beiyu threw the arrow which was covered in blood. With her left hand, she picked up the horse whip and whipped. An exploding noise suddenly rang in the air. This frightened Lin Zicheng. You want to use your left hand to fight with me? Lin Zicheng's face all of a sudden turned heavy. A feeling of shame rushed forth. Huang Beiyu faintly said, using my left hand is already praising you. If this was under the situation in which she used her actual strength, Lin Zicheng, this type of small character, with one finger she can kill him. Lin Zicheng's face was red and green at the same time for a while. Especially under the circumstance where everyone was looking, later one he will definitely harshly insult that girl who doesn't know her own abilities. His strength was higher than Lin Wanyi's. He almost broke through the rank of a gold warrior. This type of rank, compared to a silver warrior, the strength was at least higher than 30%. The baby phoenix's first cry, too. This girl was able to take advantage of Lin Wan-yi, but it's impossible to try to with him. The surrounding people tactfully left and formed a huge circle within the middle. That would serve as the stage for competition. Lin Zicheng's double-edged sword flickered under the light. He thought of letting Huang Beiyu lose extremely tragically, even worse than Lin Wan-yi. Therefore, from the start, he prepared to completely display his full capacity. The best if Huang Beiyu is not even able to survive one comeback against him. Lin Zicheng held the double-edged sword, ready to attack. He waited for Huang Beiyu to attack first because during the competition of weak versus strong, in order for the strong to display their expert manner, they usually would let the weaker one attack first. Therefore, it wouldn't seem as though they were trying to take advantage of them. However, this Huang Beiyu held the whip, whipping it against the luss on the ground. She seemed to be pondering over a question, not placing Lin Zicheng, who was across her, in her eyes. Lin Zicheng got impatient. In his heart, he planned everything out. The moment Huang Beiyu makes a move, he will kill her, not leaving anything whole. But if she didn't make a move, then would he have to keep waiting? Lin Zicheng looked towards his father, Government Minister Lin, only to see him slightly nodding his head at him. Lin Zicheng understood, yelling loudly then charging over. On the double-edged sword, a faint blue-green air condensed around it. The imposing manner grew rapidly. The surrounding people all let out a cold gasp. It seemed as though the elder master of family Lin has almost reached the rank of a gold warrior. Princess Ingyi slightly moved up a step forward and scrunched her beautiful eyebrows, asking to Zhang "Royal brother, Beiyu, Princess don't need to worry. Since you dared to challenge, then she must have enough confidence." Zhang Yi hadn't opened his mouth. It was Xiao Yao Wang who had spoke first. Princess Ingyi and Zhang Yi both stared at him. In Nanigua, Xiao Yao Wang's status was very high. Plus, this person didn't care about fame and fortune. He was free and confident, uninhibited. He was admired by many. Even the crown prince, whose nature was to be indifferent and cold, held some respect towards Xiao Yao Wang. Once they heard Xiao Yao Wang say this, it was more useful than hearing it from any other masters. Zhang Yi was slightly relieved. Princess Ingyi peered at Feng Lianyi, who stood next to Xiao Yao Wang. His body of white was whiter than snow, the clothes clear and bright as though untainted. He faintly smiled whilst looking at the stage. He seemed to be worrying about nothing either. They all have confidence towards Huang Beiyu? Swish, it was the sound of the sword streaking across, the harsh strength hitting directly at the face. The sword hadn't reached the face yet, but the vital energy of the sword was as though a sharp knife, coming straight for her face. This move was indeed rapid and cruel. It was tricky and sinister, not showing a bit mercy at all. The young girl who stood in front was indifferent as though frost. The cold eyes glanced at the tip of the sword. Suddenly, she was as though flowing cloud, moving back a couple steps. The jet-black hairs seemed like smoke as it floated around and at that moment, disappeared from the eyes. Lin Zicheng was surprised. He widened his eyes, not daring to believe what he just saw. That move with his sword was quick and harsh. He unexpectedly threw himself at nothing and almost fell flat on his face. "Where is the person? Elder brother, be careful of your back." Suddenly Lin Wanjun shouted loudly. Lin Zicheng's heart shivered. A feeling of chilliness slipped from the tip of his heart. He naturally wasn't a weak person. He hurriedly spun himself over and waved his sword over. But Pia, the hard sound of the whip slamming against something. Lin Zicheng hadn't reacted over when the face was already scorching with pain. That horsewhip wasn't playing when Huang Beiyu had whipped it. How powerful was that strength? Only Lin Zicheng, who was beaten by it, would be able to say so. The baby phoenix's first cry, 3. He was slightly terrified, then turned angry. The surrounding people were also shocked, especially the masters. Their eyes were vicious and saw from Huang Beiyu's dodge, and how her body had disappeared, that it is probably something that only the rank of silver warriors was able to do. If this was the case, Princess Beiyu not only wasn't a useless person, but she had always been a silver warrior in secret. She must really know how to restrain herself then. In order to become a warrior, the process was definitely going to be difficult and complicated. How did she practice this without the people of family Xiao knowing? Of these people, it was family Zhao's people who were shocked the most. Xiao Zhongqi, who was also a silver warrior, widened his eyes. After half a minute, he deeply shouted, "This is impossible." Xiao Yun's face was also not looking good. Her lips were turning white and replied after a bit, "Elder brother, based on your strength, would you be able to suddenly disappear like what she did?" Xiao Zhongqi acted as though he had choked on something, a feeling that his throat was being suffocated. For a good while, he couldn't say a single word. Would he be able to do it? Based on his current silver warrior strength, his speed did indeed meet a current state, but the moment when Huang Beiyu had vanished, her hairs were dragged in the air and left a black shadow. This meant that her entire body hadn't depended on the extreme speed to dodge, but she really actually suddenly disappeared. Xiao Zhongqi was frightened within his heart. If before, during the competition of Huang Beiyu and Lin Wanyi, He thought that was based on luck then now. He completely didn't dare to think that. The first time is luck, and the second time is also luck. Then how about the third or fourth time? Who knew the third sister is such a powerful person? Xiao Zhonglei mumbled. In his voice, it contained some childish envy along with some secret regret. All these years, the person who he didn't place in his eyes was actually such a powerful person. At the same time, when his heart felt unbalanced, he was also insecure. Because this meant that Huang Beiyu isn't a useless person anymore. She was not the young girl that he thought he could control her feelings as he wished anymore. He watched as his elder brothers/sisters and father all held a heavy expression on. In his heart, there seemed to be a rock pushing him down. The surrounding audience let out a scream once more. That Lin Zicheng had used his entire strength a couple times already, but each time has been cleverly resolved by Huang Beiyu. No one was able to see her actions clearly, but they only felt as though each time their eyes were dizzy. Her whip was already past the heavy vital energy of Lin Zicheng's sword, and it whipped against Lin Zicheng's face. Pia, Pia, Pia. Adding onto the whip from before, it was a total of 4 whips. All of them whipped on Lin Zicheng's that handsome face. It was rapid and harsh. When it whipped on his face, it turned his face bloody and his handsome appearance was ruined. Disgrace. This was a completely undisguised shame towards a powerful person who was about to hit the Gold Warrior rank. If the same body part was attacked twice, it was an extremely huge insult. While Huang Beiyu had whipped him on his face 4 times. What does this mean? All the people's heart thought of the same thing. Difference. The difference between strengths. Under this type of situation, this meant that the difference between the two people's strengths was too big. That Lin Zicheng from before to now hadn't even touched the corners of Princess Beiyu's clothes. On the stage, Lin Zicheng's forehead was filled with sweat. His whole face was covered in blood stains. He panted as though a cow. The eyes were red due to anger, and he harshly glared at Huang Beiyu. That traumatic look compared to Huang Beiyu, who was calm and relaxed, could be considered as a complete contrast. The baby phoenix's first cry, 4. The cold and indifferent eyes slowly raised up. The clear and icy light was as though the blossoming of morning stars. That clear but icily arrogant temperament struck at the will of the people. The whip in her hand whipped hard and let out an exploding noise. Lin Zicheng clenched his teeth, and he revealed an ominous glint within his eyes. He suddenly changed his offensive move and raised the tip of the sword, pointing the sword towards the sky. The faint blue-green vital energy of the sword rose dramatically. The vitality followed the arm and flowed into the double-edged sword. The vital energy within the sword slowly turned into a fiery red color. The fire attributed vital energy. When the vital energy and the vitality were able to mix together, this meant that they had approached the doorsteps of a gold warrior. This Lin Zicheng was quite fine. This year, he hadn't approached the age of 30 yet, but had such an accomplishment. Not only that, he was born from the residence of a government minister. He had a profound background and his future could be said as bright and radiant. What a pity that he had bumped into the muzzle of her gun. How could she easily let him go? Double-edged sword skill. Hiss of the violent raging flames, the first form. Lin Zicheng shouted out loud, and the raging vital energy of the sword slowly threw itself down. The vital energy of the sword, which contained such an intense fire attribute, was too powerful. Even from far away, they were able to feel the rise and fall of the burning hot fire attribute. If they were to be hit by it, not only would they be scorched by the fire vitality, but they would also be heavily injured by the harsh vital energy of the sword. The double-edged sword skill of the Gold Warrior was not covered. Huang Beiyu wouldn't go against it directly. She whipped the horsewhip up, and it wrapped around a wooden pillar. Her body used the force to swing herself out, steadily standing on top of the pillar. At the same time, Lin Zicheng's hiss of the violent raging flames struck the place she had just stood by. At the moment, a deep hole on the ground formed, and it contained flames. Those who saw this felt a tremble within their hearts. Huang Beiyu glanced at that deep hole, and the facial expression turned serious. She swung the horsewhip in her left hand, and the vitality within her body hadn't passed by the pubic region, directly following the arm and flowing into the horsewhip. In that instant, the entire horsewhip formed a straight line. The clear vitality flowed around in the horsewhip, slowly moving down until it reached the end of the horsewhip. No one noticed that a tint of black vitality, which could barely be seen, had also been injected into the horsewhip along with her vitality. She turned her wrist just as Lin Zicheng had just performed his skill. The moment when he was tired with a pale face, her cold eyes flashed. Swish, the straight horsewhip flew out. That noise sounded like the hiss of a ghost, which included harsh vital energy, destroying everything in its way. It was ice cold as though the point of a knife. It launched towards Lin Zicheng's chest. "Zicheng!" Government Minister Lin hollered, but it was already too late. That horsewhip, with lightning speed, penetrated Lin Zicheng's that gorgeous armor. A massive blood fog exploded and ended all of Lin Zicheng's actions. The widened pair of eyes was still filled with unbelievableness. How is that possible? That is just a useless person, ah. Princess Zhang's Princess Bei Yu is just a useless person, ah. How could he possibly be beaten by a useless person? How is it possible, ah? Ah, Lin Zicheng yelled out loud and wanted to continue battling. The warrior's dignity didn't allow anyone to insult him, ah. But after a loud holler, the vitality within his body was strangely sucked away from some mysterious power. That tint of black which couldn't be seen by the human eye slowly condensed into the soft whip. Lin Zicheng's two knees turned soft and kneeled on the ground, spitting out a mouthful of blood. Huang Beiyu stood high up on the pillar. Coincidentally, the direction in which Lin Zicheng had kneeled was towards her. The indifferent eyes swept through him, and Huang Beiyu slowly opened her mouth. How is it? Who is the weaker person? Lin Zicheng wasn't able to say anything. At that moment, everyone within the competition stage was speechless. The baby phoenix's first cry, 5. The sunshine was too dazzling. The dazzling and radiant light surrounded the aloof girl's body like a burning flame. At that moment, many people thought that there was a phoenix within the light that resembles a burning fire. Today, Nanny Country's too outstanding martial talent has fallen. However, there is an even brighter star that has risen to the sky of Nanny Country, lighting up the entire region. The little phoenix's first cry. After this battle, Nanty Country will no longer have the waste from Princess Zhang's residence. The surrounding area was quiet. Only her cold voice resounded, like a cold wind that represses people's heart. Everyone around her began to tremble. Their gaze towards Huang Beiyu has changed. There's no contempt or sympathy within their gaze. These things will no longer be directed towards Huang Beiyu after today. Within those gazes, there are shock and respect for the strong. After a moment of shock and dullness in their eyes, Lin Yijuan ran to her brother and supported his head. She raised her head and glared at Huang Beiyu. How could you be so vicious? This is a mere competition to test out each other's strength, yet you're going as far as injuring someone's life? In addition to the anger in her eyes, there was also a hint of hesitation and fear. The strength that Huang Beiyu had displayed before is too frightening. An expert who was about to enter the Gold Warrior stage was badly humiliated by a few strikes to his whip to his face. After that, with just one move, she had seriously injured her opponent. This kind of frightful yet strange strength was fast and fierce. It completely doesn't give the opponent an opportunity to resist or dodge. The Huang Beiyu from before was clearly a waste. After hearing from Xiao Rou how she had bullied Huang Beiyu, she felt it was beneath her dignity to do so. But no one would have thought that it is the same Huang Beiyu who was bullied to the point where she was afraid to even cry. Yet it's the same Huang Beiyu who was able to ruin two talented experts from government minister's residence. If you come up to compete, don't you know that you'll get injured? Huang Beiyu coldly glared at her. The expression on her face didn't waver much besides her mouth, which faintly lifted up into a smile, carrying a trace of mockery. Her right hand was still bleeding, and her shoulder was injured by Lin Wanyi's sword. Are these injuries not injuries? She was standing straight so most people could see that her hand and shoulders are injured. Most of those people were common people. However, There is also outspoken and straightforward mercenaries and nobilities. After they heard Lin Yijuan's words, they began to whisper. Just a moment ago, Lin Wan-yi was vicious and had deliberately injured Princess Beiyu. That is what's called real viciousness. From the start, Lin Zichen's attacks didn't show any mercy. All his moves were intent on killing someone. If Princess Beiyu's strength is weaker than his, then she would have been injured heavily. Giving you a taste of your own medicine, what's wrong with that? Could it be that people from the government minister's residence are sore losers? Who would have thought that the people from the grand government minister's residence would do things secretly in the dark? They would secretly shoot out an arrow and couldn't handle it when they lose. What is this called? Hey, speak in a low voice. She's Prince Jin's Wang Fei. She has the support of Prince Jing and Anghua Gong's residence. That's why she's so arrogant. TSK, the crown prince hasn't even spoken yet, so what if it's Prince Jin? The lively discussion and comments immediately ignited the atmosphere. In the Karti continent, the strong is respected. What they hate the most are people who use despicable means. However, towards the strong, they will always respect and admire them. The baby phoenix's first cry, 6, Princess Beiyu is already very strong. With just her left hand, she was able to effortlessly defeat Lin Zichun, who was about to enter the Gold Warrior stage. This kind of strength is too strong and too frightening. The people from the government minister's residence could only shrink their necks and didn't dare to speak. This is because people around them were giving them gazes full of contempt and disdain. Government Minister Lin also felt that he had lost face. He turned around to look at Anghua Gong. Anghua Gong's expression was extremely ugly. In today's battle, the government minister's residence has lost 2 geniuses, which is a small matter. The most important matter is that Lin Wan-yi is the future Jin Wang Fei. Her identity is different from regular people. Yet by doing these kinds of things, she not only ruined the reputation of the government minister's residence, but she has also ruined Prince Jin's reputation. Everything that they had planned before is now useless. This Lin Wan-yi definitely cannot become Jin Wang Fei. They now have to restart all their plans, so how could Anghua Gong not be angry? In addition to that, the girl he dislikes the most had unexpectedly become the center of attention. This Huang Beiyu's skills are very strong. She'll be difficult to deal with. Before, they had sent out people to kill her. Yet there is still no news from them. He had originally thought that they had made a mistake, so they fled. But now, it seems that those people have already been dealt with by Huang Beiyu. With her strength, the people he had sent are no match for her. Anghua Gong snorted and returned to his residence. Government Minister Lin also had slowly walked up and ordered people to help Lin Zichen return home. Huang Beiyu raised an eyebrow and lightly said, "So Lin Gongzi is just going to leave like this? Otherwise, what else do you want to do?" Lin Wanjun said as he sucked in his nose. Their government minister's residence is done for. Anghua Gong must have been disappointed with the government minister's residence. Kneel down and apologize to me. That's what you agreed to. Huang Beiyu's voice was clear and cold, but her words are powerful and resonating. The people around them immediately nodded. Lin Zichen did say before the contest that if Huang Beiyu defeats him, then he'll get on his knees and apologize to her. Thousands of ears had heard him say that. The crown prince, Principal Tsang He, and Xiao Yao Wang could all testify. Even if Lin Zichen wanted to renege on his promise, he's unable to. Princess Beiyu, my older brother is already like this. Don't bully others to the extreme, Lin Wanjun said as she bit her lips. Huang Beiyu sneered. That's what he did to himself. Does he want to renege on his promise just like this? Is that what an expert would do? As an expert, if they dare say it, then they must do it. That is an absolute must, especially in front of so many people. If he wants to refuse to acknowledge his promise, then in the future, no one will respect him. Lin Wanjun looked at Government Minister Lin. The government minister was furious as he said in a low voice, "Zicheng, go." During this situation, everyone's on Huang Beiyu's side. This girl is indeed a vicious and cunning person. Originally, her overbearing manner is very easily disliked. However, She had brought up how an expert would act and compared it to Lin Zicheng. Due to this, if he doesn't apologize, then he'll lose the heart and trust of other people. Hence, he could only kneel down and apologize. What a scheme. In other words, she's sinister and cunning. She's able to kill people without using any weapons. Lin Zicheng slightly nodded his head. He let Government Minister Lin and Lin Wanjun release their hold of him. His face was covered in blood, making him appear strange and sinister. He slowly kneeled down and pressed his hands on the ground and furiously grabbed the soil. Lin Zicheng's voice was cold and hard as he said, "It's my fault that I don't have any eyes and had wrongly accused Princess Beiyu. So I apologize and hope that Princess Beiyu will forgive me." The corner of Huang Beiyu's mouth curved up. She gracefully jumped down from the wooden pillar and walked to the side. She indifferently threw these words down. "You can stand up." The baby phoenix's first cry. 7. There were visible blood markings on the ground from where Lin Zicheng had grabbed the soil. He raised his head and stared at Huang Beiyu's back. His eyes revealed bitter resentment and hatred. "Loathsome girl, I hope you will remember the shame that you had brought me today, because I will return it back to you 100-fold. Congratulations, Princess Beiyu. Now, no one would dare to call you a waste in the future," Luoluo said loudly. After Luoluo congratulated her, the people around them followed suit. They also congratulated her and expressed their respect towards her. To a strong person, all this glory and recognition is natural. Principal Song, he came up to her and said, "When Princess Beiyu entered the school, you didn't take the assessment. In a few days, I will arrange an assessment for you. If you pass the assessment, then you can study martial arts." Wow! Princess Beiyu is also a martial warrior now. What's more, she directly jumped into the Silver Warrior stage. Maybe after the assessment, her level might be even higher. When she had fought Lin Zicheng earlier, she didn't use all of her strength. She's a genius. A 12-year-old that is at Silver Warrior stage or Gold Warrior stage is definitely the youngest martial expert in Nanny country's history. She's worthy to be called Princess Zhang's daughter. She's a young genius. Everyone was praising Huang Beiyu for her talent. This made Huang Beiyu, who is usually cold and indifferent, a little embarrassed. Xiao Yao Wang and Feng Lianyi stood behind the crowd. They laughed as they looked at the scene in front of them. Xiao Yao Wang slowly shook his fan as he slightly squinted his eyes. A flash of melancholy flashed by his eyes. "You is a genius," he said softly. "If Princess Zhang knows, then she probably wouldn't have died so uneasily. The dead has already departed. Wangya, don't worry about the dead." Feng Lianyi raised his head. His light purple eyes showed no ripples in them. "Princess Beiyu is very intelligent. I'm sure her achievements in the future won't be much lower than Princess Zhang's." "That's right. I will protect you in the future until she grows up." Huang Beiyu is only 12 years old this year. Today, she has shown her ability for the first time. In the future, there will be many people who want to harm her. Although she is strong, she's still a child. In order to fulfill his promise to Princess Zhang, he will definitely protect her. In the faraway 7th tower, a noble and cold figure stood beside the half-opened window. The gentle wind slightly blew across his dark hair. His pair of eyes were abnormally cold. But within that cold and unfeeling eyes, there is a trace of light. "Huang Beiyu. Beiyu." His cold and quiet voice dissipated with the wind. "The stronger you get, the more I want you." The person he chooses would definitely not be wrong. The Honorable Spirit closes the window. His figure is like fog, dissipating in the darkness. Okay, Princess Beiyu and Lin Wanyi's competition has already ended. The winner is Princess Beiyu. When Principal Tsong he saw the situation has slowly settled down, he pressed his hands down and waited for everyone to become quiet. After that, he declared the results of the competition. A 12-year-old Silver Warrior stage expert has won. Now no one will think it's an accident anymore. Thinking back, the competition between Princess Beiyu and Lin Wanyi was really wonderful. Every move she had displayed were moves that an expert would make. If it's all based on luck, how can she be so confident and at ease? Princess Beiyu is really talented. Lin Wan Yi and Lin Zicheng are not her opponents at all. The baby phoenix's first cry, 8. She had lost to Princess Beiyu even after she had exhausted all her strength. She's of no use. Therefore, everyone agrees on the result of the competition. Okay, let's continue the competition, Principal Songhe said. His voice was brimming with prestige and dignity. The audience returned to their seats and continued to watch the competitions. After Huang Beiyu bandaged her hand and shoulder, she turned to look at the competition between Princess Yi and an expert from the Martial Arts College. With just a glance, Huang Beiyu knew that the expert from the Martial Arts Academy isn't Princess Yi's match. If Princess Yi went to the Martial Arts College instead of the Imperial College, she'll still be a talented expert. Huang Beiyu didn't watch the match between them because she already knew the result. She slowly walked towards the judge's seat. A guard came over and respectfully bowed to her. The deep respect and admiration on his face were obvious. Princess Beiyu, is something the matter? Before, everyone knew that she's a waste. But now, she had suddenly become a talented expert. When people think of this, they were inspired by her. How much effort had she put in, and how much difficulties had she faced? Therefore, people's respect for Huang Beiyu is much deeper than their respect for a regular expert. I want to talk to Principal Songhe. I must inconvenience you to ask him. Thank you. No problem. The guard immediately became excited when he heard such courteous words. He would have never thought that such a talented expert would be so polite. No wonder she is the daughter that Princess Zhang has raised. This made people respect her from the bottom of their heart. The guard walked to the judge's seat and whispered a few words into Principal Songhe's ear. Principal Songhe got up. Like an immortal, he walked over to Huang Beiyu with a kind smile. Princess Beiyu, is something the matter? Huang Beiyu greeted Principal Songhe and said, Principal, I really like to stay in the Imperial College and learn about poetry and etiquette. This is also what my mother wants for me. I want to ask Principal Songhe not to transfer me to the Martial Arts College. She really likes how quiet and peaceful the Imperial College is. What's more, the classes that she's taking there isn't all useless. Although one's martial arts would increase significantly if they enter the Martial Arts College, Huang Beiyu still hasn't been able to condense any vitality up till now. The things that are taught in the Martial Arts College isn't suitable for her. If she transfers there, it'll just be wasting her time. After listening to her words, Principal Songhe was slightly surprised. This was because he had never encountered any students that didn't want to enter the Martial Arts College. If a regular student had heard that he or she could enter the Martial Arts College, he or she would be extremely excited. However, he respects a student's wishes. If Princess is sure about this, then I'll respect your decision. Thank you, Principal. Huang Beiyu bowed towards him. When she raised her head, her gaze was at the faraway 7th tower. She asked, Principal, I want to as if the students from the Imperial College would be able to enter the 7th tower to look at ancient books and scrolls? Principal Songhe kindly smiled. Naturally, they can. But the books that the students in the Imperial College would study are located in the library in the Imperial College. The ancient books and scrolls in the 7th tower are too profound. Thus, the students from the Imperial College wouldn't enter. However, there isn't a rule that says that they can't. I understand. Thank you, Principal Songhe. Huang Beiyu quickly said. The baby phoenix's first cry, 9. Principal Songhe looked at her deeply and said in a sincere and earnest voice, Princess Beiyu, you are very talented. If you concentrate on cultivating, then in the future you'll definitely become very strong. I think you should reconsider about transferring to the Martial Arts Academy. Although Huang Beiyu doesn't think the same way as Principal Songhe, she told him she'll consider it. Principal Songhe nodded his head and went back to sit on the judge's seat. At the end of the battle between Princess Yi and the expert from the Martial Arts College, Princess Yi had won without a surprise. The expert that was defeated by Princess Yi and had willingly admitted defeat. The two battles between the Imperial College and the Martial Arts College were both won by the Imperial College. This made the talented experts from the Martial Arts College lose face. Teacher Lei, who was on the judge's seat, was fuming with rage while Teacher Guo was stroking his chin and laughing heartily. This year, the students from the Imperial College have given him so much face. Princess Yingyi walked back to her seat with her sword in hand. But when she saw Huang Beiyu, she smiled as she pulled Beiyu's hand forward. There was a lot of people before, so I didn't go up to congratulate you. My royal brother and I are very happy for you. Thank you, Princess. Thank you, Crown Prince. Princess Yingyi smiled and said, Why are you thanking us? We are a family. What's more, you have destroyed the arrogance that Unwavering residents and the government minister's residents always have. These two old guys support Prince Jean, so they harbor bad intentions towards my royal brother. They need a good beating. For a long time, Government Minister Lin and Unwavering are jackals of the same tribe. In addition to Government Minister Lin and Unwavering's side, there is also Prime Minister Qi. In Nanny Country, these two groups both harbor ill intentions towards the Crown Prince. However, a few days ago, Huang Beiyu had killed Xue Ming. Shortly after that, Unwavering's treasure was stolen. In a short time, people from Unwavering's residence can't be as arrogant as they were before. Presently, the two talented geniuses from government minister's residence have been crippled by Huang Beiyu. Now, they have been beaten to the point where they can't lift their heads up. After hearing this, the experts who have been relying on the government minister's residence would probably break their ties with the government minister's residence. It doesn't matter which residence they would join. As long as they're able to take away the arrogance from Unwavering's residence and the government minister's residence, then it's for the best. Even though this was unintentionally caused by Huang Beiyu, Princess Yingyi was very happy. Princess Yingyi took Huang Beiyu to sit at where the royal family would sit. However, the Xiao family wasn't seated far from where the royal family would sit. This is because by using Princess Zhang's name, they are able to be seated close to where the royal family is. As Huang Beiyu walked past them, the group of people sitting there started to become nervous. Xiao Zhongqi and Xiao Yun immediately put up their guard as they looked at her. After so many years of bullying her, they don't believe that she won't come and seek revenge. However, unexpectedly, Huang Beiyu didn't even spare a glance at them. She walked straight up to the crown prince and was about to bow when Zhang Yi raised his hand and said, No need to be too polite. Princess Yingyi and Huang Beiyu sat together. Princess Yingyi said, Royal brother, how was Beiyu's performance before? Isn't she very strong? Zhang Ye's complexion wasn't too good. His face was slightly pale. But after hearing Princess Yingyi's words, the corners of his mouth slightly raised. Zhang Yi rarely say words of praise to others, but he said, Very good. Royal brother rarely praises others, Princess Yingyi mischievously said. Huang Beiyu looked at Zhang Ye's face and was secretly worried. Why is his complexion still so pale? It seems that he still wasn't able to detoxify the poison. Was 100 poison pill not effective at all? The baby phoenix's first cried, Tin. Is the crown prince's body not well? Huang Beiyu couldn't help but ask. Princess Yingyi knows that the crown prince has a cold and detached temperament and doesn't like to talk to others. Hence, she spoke first and said, It has been chilly these past few days, so my brother caught a cold. His body is somewhat unwell. Huang Beiyu looked at Princess Yingyi. Princess Yingyi's eyes were clear and bright. It doesn't seem like she's lying. Huang Beiyu was puzzled. Could it be that he didn't tell Princess Yingyi? Didn't he tell her that he had told the emperor, and that he also went to Xiao Yaowang to look for solutions? Could it be that he said all those just to comfort her? When Huang Beiyu thought up to hear, her mood became heavy. Princess Beiyu, who's your master? Zhang Ye's voice faintly sounded. My master doesn't like it when I mention him in front of others. I hope you understand. Her master is a hermit and passes his day like an immortal. The more quiet and secluded a place is, the more her master likes it. Hence, people from the outside rarely heard about him. However, the disciples that he teaches would all become one of the very best experts in the world. Zhang Yi nodded his head, but he secretly thought in his heart, She must be Shi Tian's disciple. That night, Shi Tian had told him that she had come here to repay Princess Zhang. But Princess Zhang has already died. Therefore, she could only repay her debt through Princess Beiyu. Huang Beiyu has been rumored to be a waste, and her physique was special so she couldn't condense any vitality. However, in the past few days, she was able to shock numerous people with her talent. How can someone become so powerful in such a short time? It would be impossible unless they receive the guidance of an expert. In order to repay the grace of Princess Zhang, Shi Tian would definitely do her best to teach Princess Beiyu. She's a confident and light person. Even if she had taken Princess Beiyu as a disciple, she still isn't fond of showing off. Your teacher must be very powerful to be able to have an apprentice like you. Zhang Yi didn't press the issue any further. Since Shi Tian had told Princess Beiyu not to tell others, then he shouldn't make things difficult for her. Since little, Huang Beiyu has always admired and respected her teacher. So whenever she hears others praising her teacher, she's especially happy. Yes, my master is a great person. Although he is young, he is very powerful. When Zhang Yi heard that her teacher is young, he's even more certain that it's Shi Tian. Within the many experts in Nanny country, an expert who is young and powerful besides him, there is only Shi Tian. When Zhang Yi heard how Huang Beiyu revere her teacher, he is also very happy. There is no need to talk about Shi Tian's character. The disciples that she teaches would naturally be pretty good. A soft yet hard-to-detect smile flashed by his handsome face. From his space ring, he took out a bottle of jade liquid for healing and gave it to her. He said, "Carefully take care of your wounds." Huang Beiyu blankly stared at the bottle. Last time, Zhang Yi also gave her this thing. However, at that time, she was Shi Tian. Because she was a 9-star summoner, that's why he was very liberal when giving it to her. That time, Yin had said that the jade liquid is very precious and hard to get. Even if you have money, it would still be difficult to get. At the current stage she is at, there isn't really a reason for him to give her such a precious medicine, right? Could it be that he's nice to everyone? Huang Beiyu couldn't help but be a little depressed. If she knows that Zhang Yi is thinking right now, she would feel speechless. How could she become her own teacher? Princess Yi enviously looked at her. Her brother has never been so generous towards her. Just as she's about to say something, someone from the Xiao family walked over. The baby phoenix's first cry, 11. The person that had come over was Xiao Yun. Because the crown prince and princess Yi are here, she didn't dare to be arrogant. She respectfully walked over and gave them a bow. Princess Yi coldly raised her head to look at her. Although Princess Yi didn't say anything, her eyes were silently inquiring why Xiao Yun is here. Xiao Yun lowered her head, not daring to lift her head to look at them. She respectfully said, replying to the crown prince and princess, "My grandfather had asked me to come here to invite Princess Beiyu over to talk. The people from the Xiao family doesn't have many achievements. Although Xiao Yuancheng is the emperor's brother-in-law, he doesn't hold much power in the royal court. But on the contrary, Xiao Qi Yuan has become an 8-star summoner and is highly regarded by the emperor. People who are strong are respected by the people." Zhang Yi slightly nodded his head and said, "Ask Princess Beiyu if she wants to." "Thank you, Your Highness." In front of the youngest genius of the Cardi continent, Xiao Yun was just a mere 3-star summoner. In front of him, she's weak and insignificant. The pressure emitted by the crown prince was strong to the point where she could hardly breathe. Xiao Yun was somewhat discouraged. If only she could raise 1 or 2 levels up, then she would be able to lift her head in front of the crown prince. "Princess, would you like to come?" Xiao Yun said in a low voice. In Xiao Yun's heart, she's extremely angry that she has to address Huang Beiyu with such respect. So what if she's strong? What is the use of that waste, even if she has changed her fortune? She will die sooner or later. Huang Beiyu glanced at her and slowly stood up. She said, "Let's go." Just as she said that, she gave the crown prince and princess Yi a bow and left. Xiao Qi Yuan wasn't seated in the audience seats. He was in the forest where the 7th tower is located. The forest was quiet. Everyone had gone to see the competition, so no one is here. Huang Beiyu walked behind Xiao Yun. As she walked, She observed their surroundings to make sure that no one was hiding in ambush. It's not that she's overly suspicious. It's because, after so many years, her heart has become completely cold towards the people from the Xiao family. So what if they're blood-related? Her father, Xiao Yuancheng, couldn't wait for her to die. That Xiao Qi Yuan has regarded her as a disgrace that has destroyed the Xiao family's reputation the moment she was born. It's truly hilarious. Xiao Yuancheng had willingly married Princess Zhang. At that time, Huang Beiyu wasn't even born, so how does it concern her? Why does he hate her? They were surrounded by lush green trees which were illuminated by the shining sun. The spots where sunlight couldn't reach the scattered leaves on the ground gave off a cold feeling. What is that Xiao Qi Yuan doing? Why does he want to meet his granddaughter here? Just as Huang Beiyu was thinking that, Xiao Yun's hand flashed. The ice feather appeared in her hand and she turned around, aiming the ice feather at Huang Beiyu. The ice feather emitted cold air, freezing the already cold air in the forest. A cold ray of light flashed by Huang Beiyu's eyes. Huang Beiyu very naturally retreated, lightly and easily dodged Xiao Yun's attack. Second sister, what are you doing? Xiao Yun coldly and hatefully glared at her. Because the first attack didn't succeed, she immediately attacks her again. The second attack was faster and fiercer as she aimed once again at Huang Beiyu. At the same time, she screamed, "Snow White Cat, come out!" The surrounding temperature decreased once again. A large white cat appeared in the forest. The leaves on the tree started to fall. The cat's eyes looked very strange under the sunlight. Counting one's chickens before they are hatched, 1. A meow sounded in the forest, and within that sound, it contains cold air that is rushing towards Huang Beiyu. Has Xiao Yun become crazy? A mere 3-star summoner actually dared to attack her? When she was battling against Lin Zicheng today, did Xiao Yun not see her strength? Otherwise, how could she so brainlessly dare to challenge her? Unless someone has instructed her to do so in order to set up a trap. Who is it? What's their purpose? Since Xiao Qi Yuan was the one to ask Xiao Yun to bring her, then it must be that old fox. What does he want to do? Does he want to see her true strength? Don't make her laugh. Does he want to see her true strength by sending Xiao Yun, who is just a mere 3-star summoner? Huang Beiyu twirled backward, arriving behind a tree. She swept her eyes across the forest. Xiao Qi Yuan must be hiding somewhere in order to see her skills. He wants to see her skills? How could it be that easy? She picked up a stone from the ground and held it in her hand. Huang Beiyu used the trees to block the oncoming attacks from Xiao Yun. No matter how Xiao Yun attacked her, he won't appear. The Snow White Cat has ice attributes. Although the cat is very docile, however, when it's in a battle, it's somewhat violent. The cat kept screaming and screaming, wanting to break the tree with its large body. Huang Beiyu secretly poured vitality into the stone that is in her hand and threw it in the direction of the Snow White Cat's eye. Suddenly, a miserable cry resounded throughout the forest. When it comes to shooting games, even her master had praised her for her skills. That's why Huang Beiyu was able to shoot down Lin Wanyi's arrow while riding the unbalanced horse today. When Xiao Yun saw fresh blood flowing from her beloved spirit bee Sai, she was immediately distressed and angry. Huang Beiyu, stop hiding and come out to fight me. Huang Beiyu coldly laughed. You want to fight me? Do you even have the ability? She didn't reply as another rock flew out of her hand. This time, the rock didn't hit the Snow White Cat, but Xiao Yun. Ah! Xiao Yun miserably screamed. She laid on the back of the Snow White Cat while covering her injured ear with her hand. If she hadn't dodged quickly, the rock would have hit her eye. That wretched Huang Beiyu. Where is she hiding? Xiao Yun swept her gaze across her surrounding. She was surrounded by tall and dense trees. Every time Huang Beiyu threw a stone out, she would use some weird martial arts to shift herself behind another tree. This made it impossible for people to sense where she is. Stone after stones were ruthlessly and accurately thrown at Xiao Yun. Xiao Yun hid behind the Snow White Cat, preventing herself from getting injured. However, the Snow White Cat kept letting out blood-curdling screams as the rocks hit it. They were out in the open while Huang Beiyu is hidden. This kind of situation was very unfavorable to them. In addition to that, Xiao Yun was only a 3-star summoner. She can't even be compared to one of Huang Beiyu's finger. How could she get the upper hand? The enraged snow-white cat was violently charging around the forest. It wants to catch the person that is attacking them and tear that person into pieces. Yun an old voice suddenly sounded. Following that, a leopard's roar could be heard. A burst of hot wind swept over them, accompanying the roar, making the trees surrounding them crash. This level of fire attribute was very fierce. The snow-white cat's violent roar before was incomparable to this. Grandpa. When Xiaoyan heard that voice, she was immediately happy. Now, she'll have someone to rely on. Counting one's chickens before they are hatched, too. Grandpa is about to teach her a lesson. She can no longer act arrogant. A black leopard with a fire burning on each of its feet stepped out from the depth of the forest. A majestic white-haired old man sat on the back of the leopard. His eyes were slightly close, and he has an imposing demeanor like that of an expert. Xiao Qiyuan had just broken through the rank of an 8-star summoner. His spirit beast is the blazing leopard, which is a rank 12 spirit beast with the fire attribute. Although the size of the blazing leopard isn't big, its speed and attack power is very amazing. If a regular 9-star summoner meets Xiao Qiyuan, they'll have to eat a little loss. In the palace banquet before, Sima Guiyin, who is a 9-star summoner, didn't dare to provoke this old fox from the Xiao family. When Xiao Yun saw Xiao Qiyuan, she jumped down from the back of the snow-white cat. While holding her injured ear with her hand, she walked towards Xiao Qiyuan. Grandpa, that girl isn't coming out. I don't know where she is hiding and was plotted against by her. She's so despicable. Xiao Qiyuan slightly nodded his head and gave her a pill that he took out from his sleeve. He quietly said, "Put the pill in water and then crush it. After that, put it on your wounds and it won't leave a scar." "Thank you, Grandpa." Xiao Yun immediately took the pill. To a girl, their appearance is the most important thing. Even if there's a little blemish on her ear, Xiao Yun won't be able to bear it. "You can go home first. I will take care of the things here." "Yes, Grandpa." Since Xiao Yun was little, she would always obey her grandpa's words. She never dared to defy him. Although she really wants to see how Grandpa will teach Huang Beiyu a lesson, she's not in a hurry. Xiao Yun took the snow-white cat and quickly left the forest. Xiao Qiyuan rode the blazing leopard and slowly walked forward a few steps. His half-closed eyes opened slightly. An old but majestic voice slowly said, "Huang Beiyu, come out." "I thought that Lord wasn't going to come, so I was going to leave." Huang Beiyu slowly came out from behind a tree. In her hand, she was tossing up a stone and catching it. Huang Beiyu faintly smiled and raised her head to look at Xiao Qiyuan. Xiao Qiyuan said, "You should address me as Grandpa." "Really? I remember when I was a child, the Lord had said that I am not a child of the Xiao family. Hence, I wasn't allowed to address you as Grandpa, unlike my brothers and sisters." A trace of cold light flashed by Huang Beiyu's clear eyes. "That had happened so many years ago, yet you still remember." Xiao Qiyuan doesn't seem angry, just that the speed of his speech was slower. Beiyu doesn't dare to forget. The humiliation from the past, the worry from today, and the suffering from the future will all not be forgotten. Xiao Qiyuan raised his head and finally opened his eyes completely. He carefully inspected Huang Beiyu. The little girl is only 12 years old, yet standing there, the noble and cold demeanor that she exudes was the same as Princess Zhang. But the girl in front of him is different from the girl he saw when she was little. Ever since he saw her at the palace banquet, he noticed that she was different. Today, after the competition, he finally confirmed his thoughts. Huang Beiyu wasn't as timid, weak, and incapable as she was when she was little. During today's competition, she is heroic and looked high above others. That imposing manner looked like she was looking down on all experts. After witnessing the strength she used to defeat Lin Zicheng, Xiao Qiyuan's afraid that her strength is at the level of a gold warrior. At this level, even he has to take her seriously. After all, she's only 12 years old. "Beiyu, Only people who have strength in the continent are valued by others. In the past, you had the title of trash so naturally, no one would value you. Counting one's chickens before they are hatched. 3. Bayou. On this continent, only strong people are valued by people. In the past, you carried the title of trash so naturally, no one will value you. But now, it's different. With your current strength, it's enough for the Xiao family to cultivate you. Huang Beiyu slightly tilted her head and frowned. Cultivate? Xiao Qiyuan nodded his head and said, as long as you tell me who taught you those skills and who your master is, Grandpa promised that the cultivation books and secret books from the Xiao family will be passed on to you. Huang Beiyu raised one of her eyebrows and sneered in her heart. So it's like this, they just want to know who her master is and how she learned those skills. Promising her that he'll pass on the cultivation books is just an excuse to cover his real motive. Xiao Qiyuan, you really are an old fox. You really know how to calculate your moves. The skill books and secret books from Xiao family? Are they as good as my master's? Huang Beiyu's voice was faint as she blinked her big black eyes, like an innocent little girl. Xiao Qiyuan looked at Huang Beiyu's appearance. He thought, in the end, she's just a little girl who is innocent and not sensible. Her words seemed to be just comparing her master and the Xiao family. The Xiao family is a long-established large clan from the Nanny country. They had stashed away a lot of cultivation books and secret books. The number of precious devices, pills, and riches are also very significant. Huang Beiyu's master can't be an expert from a big sect. He can only be some high-ranking people who like to stay hidden. These people normally idle like a crane and don't have families. How can the things they have compare to their Xiao family? Xiao Qiyuan slowly said, today you probably saw Lin Zicheng's sword art/technique, Raging Flame's violent roar. With good sword arts, your strength will also increase a bit. You are now at the rank of a gold warrior, yet you still don't have any sword arts. Sword arts are skills of people who cultivate martial arts. When one reaches the rank of a high-level warrior, they'll be able to cultivate in sword arts. There are many sword arts in the Cardi continent, but the really powerful sword arts are hidden by experts and big families. Huang Beiyu indeed didn't see any sword arts until now. However, what she wants to cultivate isn't the path of martial arts. To her, sword arts aren't really tempting, but she is still interested in the treasures that the Xiao family is hiding. Over the years, the Xiao family has received a lot of benefits from Princess Zhang's residence. Humph, do you think those benefits are for free? My master hasn't passed me any sword arts, Huang Beiyu faintly said. A hard-to-detect sneer flashed by Xiao Qiyuan's eyes. Sure enough, her master is just a high-ranking person. Otherwise, he would have already passed her a sword art since she's already at the gold warrior rank. It seems that he doesn't have any good things. I have a high-grade sword art, Flaming Fire Chop. If the vitality in your body is of the fire attribute, then I can let you cultivate this. The vitality of a person comes from their body. The vitality in Huang Beiyu's body has all been absorbed by the Blackwater Forbidden Prison, so she doesn't have any vitality in her body. The vitality she absorbs is all pure vitality that doesn't have any attributes. So as a summoner, she can summon the Iceluan spirit bird who has an ice attribute. At the same spirit beast that has the fire attribute, she can also suppress. Naturally, the sword technique that is for people with fire attribute, she can also cultivate. Xiao Qiyuan took out the sword art, Flaming Fire Chop, from his storage ring. With a flick of his sleeve, he threw it to her. Huang Beiyu raised her hand and caught it. The sword arts of the fire attribute has fire vitality surrounding it. Counting one's chickens before they are hatched. 4. Huang Beiyu raised her hand and caught it. The sword arts of the fire attribute has fire vitality surrounding it. She opened the book and her eyes swept across the content in the book. You only have the upper volume, 1? Xiao Qiyuan said. With the ability you have now, you won't be able to cultivate the lower volume. When you almost finish cultivating the upper volume, I will give you the lower volume. If one only possess half of the sword art, they can't cultivate it at all. This Xiao Qi Yuan is clearly regarding her as a stupid child. Huang Beiyu threw back the sword art book and said, "The Lord can keep it to yourself. I don't need it." The expression of Xiao Qi Yuan's face sank as he said, "This flaming fire chop is already a high-grade sword art, and yet you still disdain it. So what if it's a high-grade sword art? Even if it's God-grade sword art, with only half of the book, it's useless. Does he think she's a fool? Lord, I can't take a reward if it's not deserved. With such a high-grade sword art, how can I want it? Humph, you just don't want to say who your master, right?" Xiao Qi Yuan coldly snorted. He was clearly angered by her stubborn attitude. Huang Beiyu coldly looked at him and said, "Who my master is doesn't concern the Lord. Don't forget, Lord has said that I am not a part of the Xiao family." Xiao Qi Yuan was about to explode, but thinking about it, he would lose his prestige if he argues with a 12-year-old girl. Thus, he slowly said, "Huang Beiyu, do you know that there are a lot of experts in the Karti continent? If you walk out of Nani country, there is still a bigger world." Huang Beiyu nodded her head. "Of course I know." Xiao Qi Yuan glanced at her, and his heart was full of disdain. What can a little girl know? Since you understand, then you should know that no matter how strong an expert is, they can't proclaim themselves to be king. Only by relying on a large and formidable family would one be able to run amok on this continent. A large and formidable family. Huang Beiyu wrinkled her delicate and pretty eyebrows. Thinking about it seriously, she said, "So a large and formidable family like the Bu Jier family and Beiyao country's Yuan family would allow one to run amok in this continent. This kind of family, it's not easy to randomly rely on them." Xiao Qi Yuan almost choked. The Bu Jier family and the Yuan family is considered one of the best clans in the Karti continent. If the Xiao family is compared to them, then they can't even compare to their farts. Is this little girl intentionally doing this? Xiao Qi Yuan's face was covered with frost as he coldly said, "The Bu Jier family and Yuan family only recognize their own people. They obviously won't rely on external forces or other people. But the other families beside them, they all value experts. Could the Lord be talking about the Xiao family?" Huang Beiyu softly smiled. In the younger generation of the Xiao family, eldest brother and second sister are considered top-notch characters. However, they're powerless to defend themselves now. But on the Lord's side, there are a few unknown experts. How can this kind of family allow one to run amok on the Karti continent? Since she had already set up to this, if Xiao Qi Yuan is still unable to understand her ridicule, then he has lived up to this age all for nothing. Thinking back about what she said before, he can't help but become angry. Since the beginning to now, she has been playing with him. "Huang Beiyu, do you think that with your current strength, you can be so impudent in front of me?" Xiao Qi Yuan screamed in anger. The blazing leopard also let out a low growl. Huang Beiyu coldly looked at him. Her elegant and exquisite small face was full of ridicule. A sword arts book is divided into 2 volumes, the upper volume, the first part, and the lower volume, the second part. In literal Chinese, it's the up volume and down volume. Counting one's chickens before they are hatched, 5. Huang Beiyu coldly looked at him. Her elegant and exquisite small face was full of ridicule. "Just a mere 8-star summoner and a rank 12 spirit beast. Do you think I put you in my eyes?" Xiao Qi Yuan's white hair suddenly spread around. In a towering rage, he screamed, "Huang Beiyu! It's better if the Lord would address me as Princess Beiyu. You have to get used to addressing me this way, or else you'll blame this princess for not giving you face when you address me wrongly in front of other people. You're overestimating your abilities." Xiao Qi Yuan's eye socket cracked. He was angered to the point where his face was completely red as he said, "Today, this old man will kill you here." "Kill me? We don't even know who will be killing who yet." Huang Beiyu coldly licked the corner of her lips. "There is no one else in the 7th Tower Forest. If she kills Xiao Qi Yuan here, no one will know. She can also be a little more sinister and blame it on the honorable spirit. Once Xiao Qi Yuan dies, the Xiao family would lose their backbone. When that happens, there'll definitely be an upheaval. When the main family is in an upheaval, Xiao Yuancheng will lose his backing. Then he could only obediently allow her to sort him out. Just as she was thinking this, Xiao Qi Yuan already shouted loudly. The blazing leopard violently roared as he stretched the muscles in its body. Its black skin immediately bulged. The blazing leopard exposed its fangs as it stared at her with its copper-colored eyes. Xiao Qi Yuan pointed his old fingers at Huang Beiyu as he shouted, "Tear her apart!" Huang Beiyu looked at him with disdain. This old man really knows how to dream. Huang Beiyu raised her chin, but before she even started summoning her spirit beast, a red ray of light suddenly swung their way from the depth of the forest. The red ray of light was thin, similar to a whip. The red ray of light hit the blazing leopard's body when it was ferociously running forward. "Ayo!" The blazing leopard cried miserably. It was flung far away by the force of the whip. Xiao Qi Yuan fell off the back of the blazing leopard. But he was an expert who has cultivated for a long time. His heart was firm. Naturally, it's impossible for him to lose his fighting spirit with just being hit. He immediately stood up and looked around him. "Which expert is this? Please show yourself." "You want to see me?" "You aren't worthy," the lazy voice echoed. The voice carried a chilly and high above others' temperament. When people hear it, they can't help but tremble. Huang Beiyu frowned. "It's this guy. This old man is just handling my family matters. I want to ask you why you are interfering." Xiao Qi Yuan isn't foolish. When the whip hit the blazing leopard before, he already had faintly felt the powerful, imposing manner of that person. That is an expert whose power that has exceeded his many times over. Because of this, he was polite. He didn't dare to be impudent. He is already an 8-star summoner. Even if that expert is like the Crown Prince Zhangyi, who has a purple flaming unicorn, it would be impossible for the expert to be able to throw the blazing leopard and him so far away with just a whip. So just what rank is this expert? He thought about it and came up with the only possible answer. It must be that this expert has been resting here and was disturbed by him, so that's why the expert had attacked him. These experts are really strong, but they wouldn't kill without reason. Otherwise, that attack would have sent him straight to hell. Family matters? The arrogant voice coldly snorted. "Humph, is my disciple someone you can easily bully?" "Disciple?" Xiao Qi Yuan opened his mouth in shock. It seemed as if he had swallowed an egg. His expression looked like he had eaten feces, yet he is forcing himself to swallow it. His face turned red, then it slowly turned white. "Disciple?" The expert which even he can't figure out what his rank is Huang Beiyu's master? Xiao Qi Yuan's hand trembled, his mouth trembled, and his tongue was tied. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.